Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 293rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson, Adam Smido-Smith, and also Ozzy Smith. I was looking on the schedule there just before we went live, and there's a lot of action next week. A bit of Jack Catchall going in against O'Hara Davis. Really looking forward to that fight. Also, Eddie's over in Chicago. Let's see how he gets on with his first offering stateside, I suppose, under the zone. Also, the week that we saw HBO bear out to boxing. No doubt we shall discuss that later on, some of the legendary nights. Also, the World Boxing Super Series is coming up next week over in Japan. Bit of Kill Relic, bit of Naoya Inoue. We'll start with the World Boxing Super Series as well this week. George Groves getting knocked out by Callum Smith. Groves was unable to hit the groove. Credit to Joe G as well, Andy. I know we don't like to do it, but credit to Joe G. Callum Smith is the main man in his stable, and Tesco's finest delivered the goods.
I think he needs to get updated to Waitrose now, mate, after that performance on Friday night. I really do. Yeah, I mean, listen, all joking aside, and that, get into brass tacks and that, we've got to hold our hands up and say, oh, well, I got it wrong for the beginning. I picked Groves to win it for the outset. Probably one step too far. I'm not saying the injury was a big issue with the shoulder and that, but you just think maybe like the mileage and the clock and that just basically caught up with him. No taking away from Smith. Smith was absolutely fantastic. Okay, I wouldn't say flawless. I did say that, but he wasn't exactly flawless. He was getting tagged with some shots and that, no head movement. But you got to say, discipline wise and the way he stuck to the game plan, didn't he overreach his punches and stuff like that. I just thought, in an attacking sense, he was pretty much on point. You could tell. I think he knew pretty early. I think it was maybe round two. He hurt Groves with the right hand, and then kind of almost near the end of the round, Groves came back with a body shot that kind of maybe slightly dipped Smith's legs a wee bit. But I thought it really early in that fight, Groves felt the power, and it looked like if it came to a shootout, it was like Smith was going to get far. It was just far too much leverage, far too much power for it. You just see that Groves was having problems. As the fight kind of wore on, and that he was getting mainly kind of like again backing off and stuff, but he was trying to draw Smith in and he just couldn't get it. He was trying to work the body, right hands and jabs and stuff like that, but he just couldn't get Smith to kind of overcommit so he could really land that right hand square. And he just couldn't get it. You got to hand it for the knockout as well as the ending was absolutely fantastic. The counter left hook, just to catch Groves as he came in with the right hand and then bang with the left hook. Sends him way over the ring, and then he steps up, and then the right hand to the body probably just took what was left out of Groves right out of him. Some people were kind of laying reference to the shot when he was on his knees and stuff. I don't want to get hung up on that. End of the day, it looked like Groves gave up the ghost, in my opinion. He shook his head. He knew where the count was. I think he looked at the referee about the count of 5 or 6 in that, or maybe slightly less than that. But he knew where the count was at, and then he left it to about 9 to then decide, right, okay, I better make it look like I'm going to get up here. So some people will say quit or bailed. Nah, I personally think he gave up the ghost a little bit. I'm thinking like the Groves against Kenny Anderson, badly hurt in that fight, but he gets up and he comes fucking roaring back like a banshee. Wasn't in him last night for whatever reason. I just think he's had a hard career. He's badly hurt an opponent in the past. He's spent £50,000 on shoulder surgery. He's probably in that moment knew in the second round is, oh fuck, I'm in a fight here. This guy can maybe take me out. He did take him out, and he said to himself, how much do I really want to take? How much do I really want this at my age? He's set for life. He made a decision, in my opinion, to basically see it out like that. And again, I'm not giving him a hard time for it. It was a great shot. It was a great finish. And if it was down to that, and that shot entirely, then you got to say it was a great finish from Smith. The left hook, the counter left hook, the right hand to the body, absolutely great finish. And you got to hand it to Smith, and that it was absolutely fantastic. So no gripes for me.
Yeah, no gripes from me either. Smith was absolutely huge in the ring. He was using all of his advantages, those big lever-like arms, and he just looks so big, and Groves looks small in comparison, and Groves isn't necessarily a small super middleweight. Fair play to Joe, fair play to Smith for getting the game plan absolutely spot on. We saw a back of the head shot last week as well with AJ against Povetkin in the heat of the battle. It sort of gets overlooked, I suppose, the fact that Groves wasn't able to continue, also the fact that Povetkin wasn't able to continue, sort of In the past, we've seen fighters use that to their advantage. Infamous examples: Terry Norris against Luis Santana. Santana got no less than 2 disqualification wins over Norris. At least one of them was from back of the head shots before Terry finally got rid of him in their 3rd fight. But fighters sometimes do go down from back of the head shots. And obviously it's dangerous. We all know that. It's a dangerous sport. And if you get hit to the back of the head, people can die. People have died in the past. I'm not using this as a reason, obviously, for Groves getting out of there. But it happened in the heat of battle, and we'll overlook it, I suppose. Richard Swig says, don't want to hear any talk about Groves being diminished or injured in this fight. Smith was the better man, fair and square. A lot of people get sniffy about how he had a hard time with Skoglund, but it often happens that a tough win like that can be worth 20 stay busy fights to a contender on the way up. Smith looked poised and confident and was a worthy winner. Talking of Smiths looking poised and confident, Adam Smido-Smith's on the call, poised and confident as ever. Smido, what did you see from Groves against Smith that caught your eye?
Yeah, I didn't watch it live. I wasn't like outwardly confident with a prediction, but I would have picked Groves if a gun was to my head. I just thought he had the more experience going into it, and I was fearful for Callum Smith's inactivity, and I'm forever fearful of his ability to make weight. But to be fair to him and his team, it's something that, as far as I'm aware, is yet to be mentioned. It's a struggle, or they start planting the seeds, don't they, before it's going to happen. He struggled this time and might only have a couple more left at this weight. But we've had none of that, so fair play to him. I thought, as expected, quite a cagey opener. Groves was on the back foot, but I think that the overall feel to the fight for me was that Smith looked confident throughout. Obviously boxed to a good game plan from Waitrose Joe. And Smith always looked the most likely to do damage. And he looked and he was doing a good job of nullifying whatever Groves was throwing back. I think that was something that was quite set in stone from early on, and then he's just ended up catching him with maybe one or two serious punches around, and then he's making Groves more and more uncomfortable, taking more and more little mini risks, and then next thing you know, he's hitting with that left hook, and his senses have gone a little bit. Followed it up, and I agree with everything Andy said about the finish. We're not outwardly going to call it a quit, but he certainly knew what was happening. He knew where the count was. He shook his head, and that's what he did. It was probably a little bit similar to what Linares did against Loma. Had taken stock, knew what was happening, wasn't particularly looking for a way out beforehand, but that was the way out at the time, and that's kind of how it played out. He's not going to take too much stick for that. I do fear for Groves now, though. He's got a lot of miles on the clock. Not 100% sure where he goes, but you've got to credit him though, because he's come back from a couple of bad losses. One really bad one in front of 80,000 at Wembley, and then he's come short up against Badu Jack and stuff like that. But he's come back, and fair play to him. He got his world title. I think it was at the 4th attempt.
Smido, on the subject of Groves' age, Toby Hines actually threw something in. He thinks that Groves has been on the same paper round as you. He said, "Is he the oldest 30-year-old in world boxing?"
Well, I'm 29, and he looks older than me. But yeah, he's just been around a while, hasn't he? And he's always got one of them golfer's tans as well when he gets in the ring. Just his forearms are slightly tanned, and the rest of his body isn't. T-shirt tan, if you want to call it that. Is one of my other observations throughout his career. Really, he is terrible at hiding when he is hurt. As early as I think possibly the 3rd round last night, I think Callum Smith, landed a right hand on him, and Groves' legs do a little bit of a wobble, and his face looks a little bit shocked. I mean, yesterday when he got caught with that, which a great shot, which it was from Smith, it was clear to everyone, come in for the kill kind of thing, and that's what Smith did, and fair play to him. He has been a bit of a sleeper, Smith, and it's about time that he really, got a win at this level. It's not his fault that he had to fight a replacement in the semi-final, but it wasn't great. I thought he was pretty poor against Skoglund. From what I can remember, he got rocked by Skoglund, which shouldn't be happening. But yeah, he's been out the ring. He's been out the spotlight a while. And this fight really was out the spotlight given its location and build up and promotion. So yeah, he really needs to kick on from here. Does he go back to normal service with Edward, or does he continue with some sort of relationship with Calla? I don't know. That'll be something that we can discuss.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that, whether they'd have the gall to put him in again with the likes of Rocky Fielding. I don't know. Rocky's won a world title since that, hasn't he? You can just see it. Smido, you're still unmuted. Tell me, Rocky Fielding, Callum Smith 2, pay-per-view. Come on, Smid, let's get on board this train.
Well, you wouldn't put it past them, would you? I mean, we've had 3 pay-per-views this year already without a world title on the bill. So yeah, we might well get that, Steve. I mean, Rocky Fielding did well against Tyrone Zerg. We picked Rocky in that fight, but it is a notch below a George Groves even at this stage of his career. But you could see it happening. But I think they quite fancy the Benavidez fight. I think from what I can see, I reckon Callum Smith, given his kind of lower end profile, particularly for a world champion, I don't think he's ever headlined a card in Liverpool, maybe against that French guy, but he's not the biggest star in the country. He might end up over on the zone over in America, for the Zorro. That's what they call him, is it, Steve?
No, Zorro's Ramirez, isn't it?
Oh, Ramirez. Well, Ramirez, Benavidez, all the same to me. So he might end up over in America.
You might well do. Shout out to MB in the chat. He says that possibly J. Leon Love in Anfield. God, no thanks,
well,
MB.
They're still working on that concept, aren't they, Steve? Remember, it was going to be Matchroom versus Team Mayweather. They're still working on that concept. It was going to be fielding against J. Leon Love. Yeah. So that might rear its head again. You never know.
It might do. Shout out to MB and all the usual bods in the chat. Go and hit thumbs up if you're in the chat. Much appreciated. A lot of love for Joe G this week. Plenty of Bellew of the week still, though, which we should get to later, including a bizarre sequence of events on the undercard between Eubank Jr. and JJ McDonough. We also have the infamous 5 Live clip, which was mentioned last week, between Barry Hearn and Frank Warren. I'll play that a little bit later on. Right, continuing on this Smith theme, we have Callum Smith, we have Adam Smith, we've also got Ozzy Smith. On the disqualification, Ozzy, John Swan, friend of the pod, shout out to John, was in touch. He said, if the final shot Smith threw when Groves was already down and it seemed to glance off the back of his head had sparked him out, could he have been disqualified? At that point, many would have expected Groves to make the count, even if the end was unlikely. What do you think about John Swan's suggestion there, Ozzy?
I think when he mentions that, the first thing that springs to mind was when Arthur Abraham, bugger, who did he did it to Andre Durrell, didn't he?
Andre Durrell,
yeah. Durrell was on the floor and then he absolutely wiped him out, and Durrell simply couldn't get up. So quite possibly, but the shot on the floor didn't concern me. I didn't look at that and think he should have been disqualified. Had it knocked him out, then of course there's grounds for disqualification because it's an illegal blow, which when the fighter's on the floor and ultimately defenceless, you cannot do. But I didn't look at that shot last night and felt, bloody hell, that's made a real telling factor on George Groves.
But at the time,
I don't think it had a factor in the end of the fight. But yeah, it's dangerous. All you're doing, I think he actually threw 2 punches when I considered Groves to be down. But I think all you're doing in them circumstances, as happened to Durrell, is, I know his was more of a slip, but you are giving the downed opponent an excuse to milk it or play on it and try and bring in the officials to favour yourself.
That's what John said, isn't it, Ozzy? He said at that point we would have expected possibly Groves to still get up, so we would have never known that he would have shook his head.
Yeah, quite. I mean, being brutally honest, I think he kind of waved the white flag and thought, "I've had enough here." I thought I mean, Callum Smith demonstrated things on Friday night that, in my opinion, he's not shown in any of his previous contests. I looked at the weigh-in, and whilst they both looked drawn, I mean, Callum Smith looked awful when he was heading into the weigh-in, but he looked absolutely. He looked a weight division above, in my opinion. And George Groves is not a small super middleweight either. He's one of the bigger ones. And Smith looked a freak basically. How he makes 168, I do not know. And I thought he was superb. I thought he bullied Groves at times. He knew he could hurt him, but he didn't get excited by that either. Sometimes you've seen fighters that if they know they can hurt them, they start winging all these punches in. It was a measured display, and the finish was excellent as well. And he also displayed a pretty decent chin because he did take some shots. We know Groves can punch. Andy referenced it before as well, that Groves did land several telling blows to the body and Smith took everything. So it was an excellent performance. I openly tipped Groves to win the tournament. I thought he'd have too much for everybody. Number 1 and number 2 met in the final, and it was the younger, fresher fighter that ran out the winner. And I'd like to see George Groves retire now. I thought he's definitely aged, and he didn't seem to have as much in his legs, which I know his movement and previous things have been quite good. He's an excellent boxer. The skills he's got are superb. And Gallagher was referencing a hell of a lot from the corner that basically old legs, Callum, old legs. And I think they knew that Groves was probably on the way down. But in my opinion, that Groves is probably at the time he's definitely a top one of the 2 fighters in the middleweight division, and it was an excellent performance for Callum Smith, and he's definitely got the potential to unify at this weight, and then I suspect that we'll see him potentially go into not potentially, definitely grow into a light heavyweight.
Yeah, Dominic, he did look huge, and he used every inch of his advantages, really. And as someone said in the chat there, his patience was killing Groves. He hurt him in the 3rd round, and from that point, he thought, you know what, I can hurt this guy, and he was just patient, and he just dissected him. Really good performance from Tesco's man. Waitrose Joe, we're calling him now, Dominic.
Waitrose Joe, Steve. It's been you could see he was smiling like a Cheshire cat in the ring afterwards. His first big victory. But yeah, I mean, I pulled my hands up like most of the guys, Steve. I got it completely wrong as well. But I think, I not only did I think Groves was going to win, but I thought he could win the fight quite comfortably. But I do agree with most of what's been said. I mean, I thought, what I will say is, I thought Groves was landing some really meaty shots to the body, and I was looking to see what would happen down the stretch, to see what to have some sort of effect, as the fight drew to a close. But you have to say Smith didn't show any signs of being slowed down while the fight was still going on. And I think the thing that really enabled him to have success in the fight, Steve, was evident from the very first second. He came out and took the middle of the ring, very aggressive, as the Americans would sort of say. He sort of won the battle of the real estate straight away, and he won it at the beginning of every single round. And I felt Groves looked, although I had the fight a lot closer, I actually had Groves ahead on points, not by a lot, but I had him slightly ahead. Despite that, I got the sense looking at Groves that his body language, he was uncomfortable. You could see there was a sort of maybe not distress, but he was very. He didn't. It looked like he wasn't in control, or it looked like he didn't feel he was in control the way he was
fighting hard to stay competitive.
Yes, he was. He just compared to the Eubank fight back in February, he looked. It looked like he felt a lot more in control. Whereas on Friday night, I got the distinct impression that he was very uncomfortable with the sort of pressure that Smith's ring position was putting on him, and as a result, I felt Groves was taking he was taking unnecessary. He was taking unnecessary risks. He was throwing shots that I felt he didn't really need to throw. Is that what you've just written there in the chat, Steve, about the shoulder?
No, we were just discussing about the shoulder and Groves' struggles with the weight as well. We're anticipating a move up to light heavy, possibly, Dominic.
Yeah, with Groves.
Yes,
I agree with what Ozzy said. I mean, and Andy, I think Andy nailed it. When I saw him shaking his head, I straight away thought, that's it. That's time to finish. He referenced it in his interview after the fight. I mean, I've always been a massive fan of Groves, Steve, because I've always thought he's given massive value for money. He's never in a dull fight. And but whenever he said after the fight about missing his kids and being away from his, he's earned it off. When you've earned as much as Groves has earned, and he is a very old 30. It's not what age you are, it's the miles on the clock. He turned pro very young. He's been in some. He's had some very he's taken some, like the two Froch fights were emotionally and physically, they were very, very draining, and those sort of things take years off your career, and you only find that out as you get near the end. But I can't see him. I mean, I wouldn't like to see Groves. Can you imagine him in against people like Beterbiev, up at light heavyweight, or he's already been beaten by Jack at super middleweight. Even likes of Bivol. I wouldn't really like to see Groves up at that. And I'll tell you the even more important consideration, Steve, is what he's talking about, the sort of toxicity of the McGuigan regime. I don't think the McGuigans will want to work with Groves now, because if you look at their whole track record throughout, when Barry was a fighter himself, they don't, and even when Hay was working with Shane, they don't want, once they believe that a fighter is past his best, once they have made that assessment, they are very reluctant to work with a fighter. I think Shane McGuigan sat down with Hay after the first Bellevue fight and said, listen, he probably said it in polite terms, I don't think, you should be continuing to fight anymore. And I think they'll probably say the same to Groves, but it's hard to know. It seems that there's a sort of there's some sort of toxicity, there's some sort of underlying bad atmosphere in that setup. I can't really, I don't speak with any authority on it, but with Groves, I would like to see him retire. I think when you get beat like that, I mean, I do think he was in the fight. He was. I thought the fight was very competitive, even though Smith. I think sometimes the fact that whenever something happens, it's a fighter, as in this example, Smith is a lot better than people expected him to be. It sometimes clouds people in the sense that, it doesn't mean he was actually winning the fight. It doesn't mean that he was dominating the fight. Yes, he was doing a lot better than we all thought, and yes, he may have gone on. If Groves hadn't have been hurt in the 7th round, Smith may have went on to get the decision or to stop Groves even later in the fight.
Well, Smith was a lot better than I think he's shown himself in the past. He said that he was one of these guys who fights up or down to the level of opposition, and we hear guys say that all the time. But I think in this instance, he was right. I think that is the case.
I think that's. I was going to say that, Steve. I think there's a lot of fighters say things like that, and you're suspicious. You think are they just sort of regurgitating cliches? But it may be the case that Smith is one of these fighters that he raises his game to the the level of his opponent. And I was just, the thing that I noticed straight away was the position he took in the ring. He went out and he took the center of the ring, and he used his size advantage. And by doing that, he used his size to make sure that Groves couldn't change that. He used the fact that he was so much bigger to prevent Groves from changing that real estate position that the Americans talk about, who's controlling the territory in the ring. And I just felt Groves, that he looked really uncomfortable. But he always, Smitho said it, Groves, whenever he gets hurt, he's never been able throughout his career to sort of disguise it or he's never been, his crisis management has always been awful. And it makes for good watching, I'm not saying good, but it makes for exciting viewing. But in terms of his ability to weather a storm, you feel whenever he gets clipped, it puts him in trouble. And do you know what? The thing that I thought was very telling. Duke McKenzie said this before the fight. He was wrong when he said it. He was saying that Groves was going to have success based on the fact that Smith was going to have to be punching down, because Smith was so much taller. He was going to have to be punching down to get to Groves' chin. But if you think about it, Steve, I always think in these sort of higher level fights, the punches that do the damage to me they don't seem to be the punches that land around the chin area. They seem to be the punches that land above the ear, around
the temple and the head. Yeah.
They're the punches that seem to really do the sort of damage at the higher level. And I think Smith, because he's so much taller, the natural trajectory of his punches were landing around that area in Groves' head. And I think that's why Groves was having a lot of trouble. Smith, his punches, the big right hands that Smith was landing very well, were connecting right on the temple area, high on Groves' head. I think that's why Smith was having a lot of success. So But it's going to be interesting to see where Smith goes from here, and how he looks against. The thing that's interesting about potential fights with Ramirez or Benavidez is that those are guys who are in the same sort of size, maybe not quite as big, but they're bigger than Groves. Now, don't get me wrong, Groves is a very big unit for super middle, but those two guys are probably...
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, Benavidez against Smith is going to be the battle of the monsters, isn't it?
The reason why I'm interested in it, Steve, is because, and this is going to sound incredibly churlish and curmudgeonly, that I'm still not entirely... I'm not completely 100% sold on Smith, because I want to see him in against someone against whom he doesn't hold the same physical advantages that he held over Groves on Friday night. I want to see how he goes about beating someone who can't bully physically, who can't push back and take the centre of the ring. I want to see what way he's going to go around beating someone or trying to beat someone like that, because when he goes up to light heavyweight, he's definitely not. He's not going to. He's like someone like Beterbiev, although he mightn't be 6'4", he's sort of big. He's not. You can't imagine him being sort of put on the back foot the way Groves was. So disappointed for Groves, but fair play to Smith. Like he did prove me wrong, and his composure I thought was very impressive. And he showed a killer instinct when he got the chance to finish Groves. He really mixed up his attack well. He showed great variation in the finish, and. But for Groves, yes, I agree with Andy. I hope the people around him, like his father, his friends, his family, that guy Neil Sibley who looks after him, they should really tell him to pack it in.
Dominic, stick with us as long as you wish. Good to have you on. Ozzy, just coming to you on the mileage issue regarding Groves, actually. I can remember him back in 2009 boxing in the Ulster Hall, pasty skinned, none of these bizarre tattoos, big mop of ginger curly hair. And now he looks like he could do with a visit from the British Hair Clinic. Shout out to them. What point were you going to make, Ozzy?
Well, it was just touching on a potential next fight for him. I think it's going to be difficult to see him box for another world title again. So the one fight I think I would happily see, and I think would definitely still have some bite to it, is another fight with James DeGale. Both are in their basically on the come downs of the career. DeGale's obviously chucked his belt away to look for the biggest fights possible, and I think Groves DeGale is still a big fight, particularly in the definitely down in London. It's still got some needle to it. It was a close fight last time, and I think it'd be a nice way for them to go out. And I still think it will be a relatively decent fight as well, because whilst both aren't not one fighter is at their peak anymore. So it's like the come down in levels still leave them relatively even. And I think that would be one I'd definitely watch that. I think that would be a good fight. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, it's not going to be for any sort of belt, I don't think. What would you do it for? Some crappy IBF belt or something? What's the point? So you could literally do it at, say, 170, because I know DeGale's talked about going up to light heavyweight before due to weight struggles. So you could just do it at 170, and I genuinely believe that would still be a decent fight to watch, and one that would definitely have entertainment values, and I think both will be interested. I wouldn't be shocked to see BT do that, to be honest.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ozzy. Joining us on the call, we have our first guest of the evening. Delighted to welcome back Mark Heffron. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate.
Excellent stuff. We're just talking about Callum Smith against George Groves, World Boxing Super Series Super Middleweight final there. I take it you got a chance to watch it, Mark. What did you think?
Yeah, it was a good competitive fight, wasn't it? I was enjoying it, yeah. I was Callum Smith's sparring partner for that fight.
Ah, excellent. So you can give us some insight then. He looks absolutely huge in the ring. What's it like to go in and fight someone like Callum?
Yeah, it was good experience. He's a good puncher as well. Yeah, it was good. Enjoyed it.
I take it he uses his jab pretty well and uses his physical advantages.
Yeah, he's got a really good jab. Really accurate with it as well. Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen Callum, just a final question on Callum, knocking people out. And George said he's a bit of a puncher. You could obviously feel that clubbing, punching, even wearing sparring gloves and that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can definitely hit hard.
You're a bit of a puncher yourself. Am I right in saying, Mark, that you're going to be out next on the October the 6th card? Is that correct?
Yeah, October the 6th I'm fighting next. I've got a decent lad. I think just like 115 knocked out 6 rounds. I've got
So that's going to be a 6-rounder, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, just a 6-rounder. Yeah.
And obviously that's going to sharpen the tools in anticipation of a fight with Jason Wellborn, the British champion. You must be buzzing for that one as well, Mark.
Yeah, I can't wait, mate.
What about Wellborn? I mean, he went in against Tommy Langford recently, put in a good performance. What did you make of that fight?
Yeah, he put in a good performance. I think he was better in the first fight, but the second fight, I thought Langford did enough to win that one.
What do you make of Langford? Because he was obviously the favourite, even though he'd already lost to Jason. He maybe didn't use his tools on the night, his jab, his height and reach and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think he looked a bit drained, like he looked weak. I don't know. He don't look the same fighter that he used to be, since he got knocked out by that Russian guy.
Yeah, maybe a knockout loss like that can possibly make him a little bit gun shy, maybe something like that. Do you think a mindset issue?
Yeah.
And you've put out a press release, obviously, around about Jason Wellborn. You really up for it? You fancy it? Obviously, you feel like you're going to be able to get the job done, possibly inside the distance, Mark?
If the stoppage comes, and I'll be buzzing that. But Jason Wellborn is a really tough fighter, isn't he? A strong fighter. I'm looking forward to a good 12 rounds. But if I get the stoppage, then yeah, it'll be great.
Just to remind our listeners, we've got Mark Heffron on the call, at Mark Heffron91 over on Twitter, if you want to go and follow him. Talking of middleweight action, Mark, we saw Triple G against Canelo, the big rematch a couple of weeks ago. What did you think of that one? Who did you have winning it?
Yeah, it was another good one, yeah. To be honest, I actually had Canelo winning that one. But the first part, I had Golovkin winning the first one, definitely. But that second one, yeah, I definitely had Canelo up by a few rounds, yeah.
Obviously, it was a battle of styles. Golovkin was doing a lot of work with the jab. Canelo was going to the body. Were you surprised that Canelo stood with him in centre ring and fought with him like Golovkin's trainer had asked for him to do?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised at that, yeah. I just think, like you said, Golovkin was landing the jabs, but I think Canelo was landing the combinations, landing the more shots, yeah.
And obviously, there's another big, a couple of middleweight fights coming up soon. October the 20th, we've got Billy Joe Saunders. If the fight's going to go ahead against Demetrius Andrade, how do you see that one going, Mark?
Another good competitive fight, yeah. I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think Billy Joe will beat him for sure.
Yeah, Andrade's a talented fighter, but he just hasn't had enough ring time. But Billy Joe Saunders, very talented and experienced now as well. He showed against David Lemieux that he can box rings around these guys when he's on form.
Definitely, yeah. I think Billy Joe's one of the best movers out there.
I'm going to bring Ozzy in a second. I'll just turn the speaker on and hopefully you can hear him. Just before we do bring Ozzy in, what about this Danny Jacobs fight, Mark? He's fighting against big Sergei Derevchenko at the end of October. Another middleweight contest at the same weight as yourself. I mean, what do you think Jacobs will get the job done?
To be honest, I've not really seen much of the guy that he's fighting, so I couldn't really tell you on that one.
Yeah, Jacobs is a good fighter. He's signed.
He's a good fighter, yeah.
He's signed to HBO exclusively, but obviously HBO, Mark, are going out the boxing business. We've seen so many great nights on there. It is a shame to see them bowing out.
Yeah, that Daniel Jacobs. I was the sparring partner for that Selecki boxing last time. The Polish guy.
Yeah.
I was in Poland for I think it was 3 weeks. I was there. I was out there sparring right through for the Jacobs fight.
What's he like to go in against, Mark? What does he do well?
Yeah, he was good. He's another one. He's dead accurate. Doesn't waste many shots. Yeah, it was really good. You could tell he was really experienced and stuff. It was good sparring there.
I'm going to try and bring Ozzy in now. He has a question for you. Go ahead, Ozzy.
Yeah, Mark, just looking to get an update on your training situation. I know you're still managed by Kev Marie, and he was in the corner for your last couple of fights, but I've seen you've moved now to with Robert Rimmer. How did that move come about, and why did you decide to leave? Not leave. Did Kev decide to just pack in the training side?
Yeah, well, what it was is I was at Ricky Hatton's gym, wasn't I? I was training with Hatton, and Hatton just kept letting me down, and he's literally in the gym once or twice a week, and obviously at the level that I'm going to be boxing at now, I need someone that's going to be putting 100% into me. And obviously, when I was in Poland sparring that selected for the Daniel Jacobs fight, I gave my manager a ring and I asked him if he could train me for them next 2 fights that I've just had back to back. And Kevin said that he would train me for him, so I come back, trained at Kevin's for them. But it was taking me like an hour and 20 minutes to get to Kevin's every day. It was a bit too much because I had to get back to my little girl and stuff. So obviously, Kevin's helped me out with the training, and I asked Kevin if he could find me a gym. And we both spoke about Robert Rimmer. And we both decided that it was going to be, we should give it a try. So yeah, we'll give it a try and I'm enjoying it now.
I was going to say, so how are you finding that? Because I know he's starting to get a bit of a stable together now, isn't he? He's obviously got Ryan Doyle, who we saw flatten Reece Bellotti, and I think he's got a couple of other lads there. So what's that like? And is there much in-house sparring for you?
Enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. We're all bouncing off each other and all pushing each other all the time. It's a good atmosphere in the gym there, and there's always like new faces in there coming down sparring. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's really good.
And just one final one from me. How are you finding boxing at middleweight? Because I know you were back up at super middleweight. You've had a couple of fights where I've seen you've made the middleweight limit. Is it difficult to make? Because obviously you're quite, in terms of size, you're pretty big. So to make middleweight is obviously a clear advantage for you.
You know what? To be honest, I'm actually making the weight good. Obviously, if I eat cheat meals, then then my weight's going up. But obviously, with my diet, I'm dedicated, and I won't cut no corners. I'll do everything proper. And yeah, I'm doing it fine. I'm sat here now on the couch at 11 stone 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And a quick
fighting a week's times at 11:10. I'm sat here now at 11:10.
So, and one final one. Is the Wellborn fight expected to land on the undercard of Warrington against Frampton in Manchester?
Yeah, that's right. 22nd of December, I'll be fighting Jason Wellborn.
Yeah, well, excellent.
Thank you, Ozzy. Just a couple of final ones from me. Did you get a chance, Mark, to see Eubank Jr against JJ McDonough last night? That was a bit of a strange ending, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I heard that JJ McDonough put money on himself for the 4th round. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know.
I can tell you that is true, Mark. That there's something fishy going on there, definitely.
Yeah, one of our contributors has jumped in and said that's exactly correct, Mark. I don't know if it actually came up for him, though. Wasn't it stopped officially in the 3rd or something?
4th round, I think it was, wasn't it? I'm not sure. Not to be honest, I'm not sure, but I just heard that he put money on himself to get stopped in the 4th.
There's a dispute over it because of the...
yeah, but that's what happened anyway. If I had a social during a fight, 100% sure I wouldn't be pulling out. Do you know what I mean? Especially in a fight with Chris Eubank.
You'd love a crack at Chris Eubank, wouldn't you, Mark?
100%, definitely. There was speaks about me fighting him, wasn't there? Like, people was talking about it, and I had a chat with Frank and that. And, I mean, there was talk about that fight, and there still is talks about it. You know what I mean? As long as he gets one out of the way with Jason Wellborn, and obviously a fight in a week's time, I don't want to look past that. Like, get these 2 wins out of the way, and then hopefully I'll be in them fights. You know what I mean?
Excellent stuff. At Mark F191, everybody. Final question, Mark. The heavyweight scene, we ask everybody who comes on. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. Who's the best of the bunch? Who's going to come out on top between the 3 of them?
You know what? Yeah, I'd say 100% Tyson Fury beats them all. Definitely.
Really? You think he'll outbox the 2 punchers?
Definitely, yeah. That's it. That's only if he's 100%. You know what I mean?
Excellent. Mark, thanks very much for joining us again. Best of luck this Saturday, and also best of luck against Jason Wellborn. We'll hopefully get you on again in the future. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers. All the best now.
Bye.
Mark F on there. Candid as always. Yeah. Andy, tell us about the JJ McDonough, Chris Eubank Jr. fight just before we go on to rapping Rob Kelly. What exactly happened? Because there was almost 2 fights, weren't there?
Yeah, well, we'll stick to the main bit, I suppose. Eubank, I think it was very passive, actually. He did seem to kind of locate a jab for the first time in, 20 pro fights. It wasn't really much to write home about. It was just jabbing and moving, and you can see the size difference, actually, obviously, as well. But then all of a sudden, McDonough just, he gets pulled out in the corner or whatever and stuff like that, and he's telling us afterwards and stuff that his shoulders went. He's had no training. He swears on his kids' lives and stuff like that. And Eubank naturally does what he does best and gets under people's skin and stuff. And then he decides that I've bailed on a fight when I was injured and now I want to fight. So he's offering the guy out with a square goal with bare knuckles and stuff like that. I said, well, sorry, dude, you had a fucking chance literally 5 minutes ago to fight with one hand. What makes you think you're going to fucking fight in a street fight with one hand now? It was just, it was a shambles. Obviously, there's been allegations now about the betting situation. Poor, it's just poor all around actually as well. I mean, I know we did say last week we weren't expecting much for McDonough and stuff like that, but and Eubank, we all know what he's all about. He's obviously kind of fishing about for another big fight. It's going to be rinse and repeat for him once he meets anybody with any modicum of fucking talent. So it's just shit. I dare say Rob would probably want to say a bit more about it. He knows more about the traveller side of things about this man than what I do.
Yeah, we're going to bring Rob in now. Actually, Rob, I'm looking in the YouTube chat and they're saying that the bookies aren't paying out, but it's been registered as a 3rd round knockout anyway, so he couldn't even do a betting-related quick job, right?
Well, as far as I'm concerned with that one, whatever you say nothing. I have to live here. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Fair news, Rob. Fair news.
No, look, I think in terms of the fight, I mean, I thought we saw a better Eubank, and I'm not want to give Eubank credit because I've been slating him his whole career, but he actually boxed for the first time I've ever seen a box. He got on the jab. I think I had saw them on Saturday because I forgot they were on Friday night, and watched them on Saturday morning, the 2 fights. But thought he boxed okay, but I think that's his level. I think he's like British. I think Eubank is British level. I've been saying this for a while. He's probably below British level. Some of the top British middleweights will probably give him a right scrap. Thought he was on the jab a little bit. Not much in the fight. Thought McDonough was holding his own. Good left hook from Eubank to floor him. Inexplicable ending. Ridiculous post-fight carry on from him, even in the interview afterwards with Coogan, absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that he was protesting so much would lead you to believe that something was astray. Because if you know what I mean, it was too. And then now that the reports of the round betting have come out, so I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. What did happen over here with Gomez and Peter McDonough before, where betting was suspended on a suspicious ending, even though Gomez's was way more obvious. So I think the less
Steve Collins never worked for RT again after that, did he?
It was heartbreaking for me actually as a Gomez fan to see him end like that. But I suppose the roller coaster career he had, it was only going to end in controversy since he'd been, he'd been a wild man for his whole career. So no, I think the less said about that fight, the better. We move on to the main event, Groves versus Smith. I was really surprised by that one. That took me by surprise. I thought Groves, I said last week, I thought Groves' experience would be the difference in that fight. But I thought Smith did a couple of things really well. And I know we dogged Joe Gallagher, no pun intended, quite a lot on the pod, and the Smith brothers as well. But you got to give, he's beaten a good fully fledged super middleweight with world level experience there. And I thought Smith's tactics in the fight, or the way he fought the fight, were outstanding. Groves was happy to sit off, left hand low as usual, counter him, but Smith's jab was forcing Groves into doing things that he didn't want to do. And I thought the way he put pressure on Groves in the ring was brilliant. He was making Groves feel uncomfortable with the close distance, and he was making Groves commit first, where Groves was comfortable countering. So when Groves had to commit first, Smith was countering him. And I think we kind of saw a little bit of that in the knockout, where Groves had heard him earlier in the fight, or wobbled him at least, but he wasn't putting a dent in him with his big power shots, and he decided to bite down a little bit and try and really back him up and hurt him. And as he was doing that, Smith parried the right hand, and short left hook was beautiful to start the flurry that ended it. So gotta give huge credit to Callum Smith on that performance. I do dog fighters, but I gotta give him credit where credit's due, and definitely great performance from him on the night. I think I'd agree with Ozzy. I'd like to see DeGale and Groves, if they're going to have a cash-out fight, let it be against each other. They fought at the start of their careers. They fought in the amateurs. Let them have it out now. There is genuine animosity. I think it's a more entertaining fight than DeGale versus Eubank. I think DeGale wins that fight at a canter, even though DeGale has regressed a little bit lately. I think he wins that easily. So it's a much more competitive fight and more interesting fight for me, and I'd like to see that one.
Rob, I know you don't want to dwell on the McDonough thing, but just talking about quits in general, if you were going to quit, right, how would you want to go out? Because I was thinking to myself, people always do the, oh, I'm injured, or pretending to get up from a count, but not actually getting up in time. And these are the most rubbish quit jobs ever. But I know you don't want to be labelled as a chinny fighter, but why not just lower the left hand, take a flush shot, stagger about the ring a little bit, like do it properly? I mean, how would you quit, Rob, if you had to get out of a fight?
If on the air, like I have children post-fight interview. I have kids. They have to look at me. They're going to be scared of me. No, I'd either do the classic, wait for the count, and I'm up. Oh, I just missed the count. Or I'd do a Kovalev and blame everybody. Or I don't know. To be honest with you, I never really thought about it. What a clip with the left hook for a moment there. He might have been thinking about what round it was, because he did lay back, sprayed out on the canvas, and then thought, oh no, I better get up.
Well, that was a shocker. I
Gets up.
meant to mention that actually, that left hook didn't seem much in it. But two quick jobs I can think of, when just looking at their faces saying is I can't do anymore, or I can't beat this guy. But one would be Mike Tyson against the Irish boy, Kevin McBride. And remember the third fight between Morales and Pacquiao? He just sat there shaking his head. He's like, I can't beat this guy.
But Morales, Andy, you could excuse him that quit. He'd given his all for about 30 championship fights.
Yeah,
I think Morales had a beaten out of him as well in that fight, hadn't he? He had definitely had a beaten out of him. What I would say on quit jobs, Margarito had the biggest chance ever to quit against Pacquiao because of the eye, and he kept going to knee. So I suppose they're the fighters that we remember over the years more than the ones that jacket.
I know you joke, Andy, but it's like people who seriously call Gatti a quitter in the later fights. I mean, the guy had literally gone to the well time and time and time again.
No, I didn't call him a quitter. I just like to wind up Donny.
No, you do it as a joke. I know. I'm only
I do it as a joke, but I shouldn't really, because the guy took his life, man. But it's just because Donny just fucking tries to fish with me with Girana and that. So I just say that Gatti's the ultimate quit job because he committed suicide. But we shouldn't.
That's fucking hell.
I know. We shouldn't say that.
That's debatable anyway, isn't it? I think there's the wife might have something to say about that. That one's debatable.
Yeah. Every time I used to say that Donny used to lose his shit over that by. That's the only reason I say it, it's just to kind of get a rise out of him. So don't take it personally, people. It was just a joke to me and private people, but I better not go any further, actually.
Adam, Dominic was saying in the chat there, he remembers Hugo Cazares quitting against Frampton, and I actually had this out with Hugo in the post-fight press conference. He was trying to say that because Victor Loughlin was counting in English, he didn't understand, but Victor had his hands in front of Cazares' face, and fingers and thumbs don't need any translation.
That's true. There's two that I like. The kid the other week in that fight in America where he just got in the ring and walked out at the first bell.
Curtis Harper, TBE.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. And talking of quit jobs, I had a couple of exchanges on Twitter last week. Tony Bellew against Adonis Stevenson. That was no worse or no better than what George Groves did last night. That was a quitting on your feet job, that. And it's been brushed under the carpet by Sky Sports.
Brushed under the carpet, says Smido.
Fuck Bellew.
Fuck Bellew as well. Right, let's have a look at some of the other bits and pieces from the weekend. Devin Haney got a win over Juan Carlos Burgos. Rob, I know you saw this one. Give me the lowdown.
Yeah, routine enough win for Haney. Is Haney only 19 still? He's young, isn't he?
Very young, and he was promoting the show himself.
You got to give him credit for that, I suppose. But I don't know, the history of boxers promoting themselves hasn't really panned out so far. I think Mayweather's the only one that's done it successfully, but he obviously did it with a lot of help from Showtime and a lot of help from Heyman. Haney on his own, I'm not sure how he's going to fare with that. I don't think there'll be too many people lining up to fight him. He does seem to be a very capable young fella. He's a bit raw still. He hurt Burgos in the 8th with a left hook, and although it hasn't been stopped, so a routine enough win from Haney. I don't think people will be lining up for him, but I don't think he's going to put bums in seats with his style either. He needs to the commentators were kind of expecting a knockout, and I think a lot of people were expecting the stoppage from him. So he'll go on, and we will see him in big fights down the line. He has got a good style, but not the most exciting fighter I've seen. I'll reserve judgment before jumping on the Haney hype train for sure.
Also, Rob, third round knockout win for Jorge Linares against Abner Cotto. How did Linares look up at 140 pounds, Rob? Did his performance get the juices flowing?
Yeah, yeah, but always Linares always gets the juices flowing, and there may be some juice flowing there. At 140 pounds, as he closes out his career, he looks stronger than ever. Like, you know, maybe he's suited to the weight, but for a guy who started 2 weight divisions below, to be carrying his power up the weight, I don't know how Abner Cotto is in terms of punch resistance, but you know what you get from Linares, like classy shots. But he was really digging last night, like at 140. And if I was him, I don't know what way he's positioning himself in terms of rankings and stuff, but surely he'd be looking for the winner of Maurice Hooker's next fight, to pick up a title at 140 and maybe entice Lomachenko into the rematch, like, because that's the only fight he seems to want, isn't it? So
pretty much, Aussie, we've had a bit of an incident this week, obviously involving Billy Joe Saunders. He's desperate to get out of this Boston show. He doesn't want to perform. He's tried, harassing members of the public, tried to get the board to take his license off him, tried getting arrested. The latest thing is this oxylafrine thing. According to Steve over on Twitter, not me. Well, listen to this.
Amphetamines.
Aye, well, it says the substance oxylafrine, says Steve, was found, but it's only banned if detected on the day of the fight, so no sanctions will be imposed. Oxylafrine is found in many food and dietary supplements, apparently, Ozzy.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, I think, when all the news came out. But in reality, I genuinely believe he is innocent in this instance. They've said that it's come from a nasal spray, and the amount found in Saunders coincides with the amount that is found in the nasal spray as well. And by all accounts, whilst it's a failed, he hasn't done anything wrong in a sense that it's only applicable if you're found with it on the day of the fight. So there's obviously been some like miscommunication in terms of, I think boxers should always try and stay away, from like, I mean, it's in something like a dietary, like a protein or something like that. And we've seen, I think, Dillian White and Lucas Brown both served bans for taking substances that were found in protein shakes and things like that. But no, I genuinely believe in this instance that Saunders is innocent. I don't think he's done it to cheat. He's had tests after it and before it, which have come back negative. So I think it's just one of those. And it'd be disappointing to see the fight called off because is it WADA and UCAD both follow the same protocol of that if it's not on the day of the fight, it's okay. And I think WADA have no sanctioning powers either. So I think they just advise rather than anything else.
I think there's an alternative view on it as well, though. I don't know if you saw Victor Conte's piece on it. Victor Conte actually sponsored the use of ADA in this contest because the promoters didn't want to do it. It was working out at 13 grand. So Victor Conte sponsored dope testing for both of their fighters. And what he says is that while it's not banned, it has way more effect than clenbuterol. And basically, he said that Ingle and Saunders have seen, or Ingle particularly because he's the nutritionist and the coach, has seen a loophole and basically drove a Mack truck through it because he said that the benefit that fighters are getting from this particular substance is 10 times more. In fact, he used the analogy that Canelo was on baby food. And Saunders gave Canelo a lot of grief for what he was on was 10 times worse. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know enough about the supplements and each substance and the benefits to the fighters. But apparently, if this thing is taken out of competition, it gives you a big advantage on fight night. So sad to see, but another example of the sport just being rotten at the moment. So.
I don't know if it's the same drug, but if it's amphetamines, for example, or some sort of kind of it gets taxed in it. I don't know if you remember, but there was a British cyclist that died way back in the late 60s on Mont Ventoux during the Tour de France. Tom Simpson. That was exactly what he was taking. That he was dapping the fucking speed tablets and that to try and keep himself, give himself a boost to kind of keep himself awake and all that sort of stuff as well.
Well, Conte said, didn't Conte say that there was suspicions around Saunders, the fact that he was able to take off 30 pounds so quickly between fights, that his suspicions were automatically raised and he had a feeling that Saunders was going to test positive for something.
Oh, well, I knew that as soon as he went to that gym, though. I mean, where's Barry Awad? Where's his brother? Is he in prison yet?
He must be putting stuff in. Look at
the size of that cunt as well, that Brendan Ingle man. I mean, what age is he? He must be like 50, early 50s or what. He's fucking jacked like a fucking prime NFL fucking linebacker, for fuck's sake. Are you trying to tell me that's bread and water, my fucking hole?
Conte also said that the hair follicle test only costs $80 to complete, and he's trying to push for it to be made mandatory in the testing as well as blood and urine, because that will trace back 6 months rather than 6 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it may be. So in this climate, I think if VADA are serious about 365 testing, why not have the hair follicle test? I mean, is it going to come down to politics where certain fighters, they don't want to test them year round because we're going to have all our big stars out of action on bans and suspensions? Probably more likely, like, isn't it?
Smido, continuing on the juice subject, this one's been filtered through our legal department with Donny Baseball, and it's good to go. The views of Tom Woodrow, etc., etc. Tom says to you, Smido, one of the things which pops up on the pod each week is why Anthony Yard hasn't been stepped up. The reason is the fucker's juiced up to the gills, boulder shoulders, tits like Jordan, and a jaw like Britney Spears on the Garys after noshing off Mandingo. He's 100% on the gear.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that, Steve. I'm not arguing with that. It could well be right. I hope that Billy Joe Saunders is guilty as fuck because he deserves it, because he's a cunt. His career is becoming pretty much a waste. We've got inactive, we're at a questionable gym, we're bullying members of the public in Sheffield, knocking about with Barry, whatever his name is, Galahad. I hope he's guilty as fuck.
It all comes in threes, though. He's apparently gets arrested. He gets fined £100,000 or whatever, and now he gets stuck and done for drugs. Oh, the banter years are here to stay.
MJP, we want to get her tested as well. Get a hair follicle sample.
Oh, come on, man.
She test positive. We know it's real.
Piss test now. Even that would come back glowing in the dark.
Right, let's move on, boys.
She would test positive for a pregnancy test.
Smido, everybody knows you can't have a baby out of your mouth, dude.
Right, let's move on. Joe Thackeray's been in touch. He said, surely it's not just me who had George Groves ahead. I thought he won the majority of the rounds. Callum would land the odd eye-catching shot, but I felt that Groves controlled the fight with his jab and his feet. Also thought he had the better of the exchanges. The scores were all over the place. Andy, let's go to you with a question from Dippo Osho, friend of the pod. He said, does the panel ever think there is any point whatsoever in Billy Joe Saunders or Danny Jacobs fighting Canelo? They would box his ears off, but never get close to knocking him out, so won't get a decision. Outside of the money, what's the point? I'm slowly watching less and less boxing these days. Didn't even bother going to AJ last week. Enjoyed a lovely biased narrative stream. What do you think about the original points from Dippo? He thinks that Danny Jacobs and Billy Joe would outbox Canelo but wouldn't get the decision.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I dare say you need to get a knockout to get a draw. I mean, Christ, they gave him a draw against Floyd, man. It was one of the most one-sided dominations you've seen this side of fucking Duran against Moore. I don't know. I mean, is the question said that you really need to get the knockout against Saunders, against Canelo. It's clear, we said it before that he is a golden goose. He is was it something like 80% he equated to Golden Boy's income, or basically.
I think it's as high as like 95, Andy. I think it's absolutely huge.
Wouldn't you be surprised, mate? I mean, he's really struggling in that. I've seen some of the fighters he's got coming through, and that he's really struggling. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Saunders is held that WBO title hostage for a while now. I really don't know. What I want to see with Saunders now, actually, I mean, it's like, you've spoke all this shit, and you still, against Lemieux, okay, it was a great performance, but the thing is, you're only good as your last performance. That was like, what is this, August, September? That's like 9 months ago. It was late December, I think that fight was. That's 9 months. We didn't know where he's at the minute. And if you look at the WBO rankings, man, they are absolute shit. I mean, who wants to see Saunders in the likes of, even if he beats Andrade, I mean, that Walter, is it Kando Wokwo? Gary O'Sullivan, Jack Culkay, Stephen Butler, Mark Murray's kicking about. I mean, imagine him getting another shot at the world title. Middleweight, you've got that Polish guy, no big banger. Is it Kamil Zerzemate, or how you can pronounce his name? I'm good with his forenames and that. But no, I mean, as I say, after Andrade and that, you're gonna have to see him fight like Derevchenko, Jacobs winner and stuff like that, or well, to purposes, go for a Canelo fight. It's a biggest payday, and to be honest, I really don't see Saunders hanging the boot boxing much longer. A couple of big paydays that I think gets away with this situation, and then he's out of the sport. He's playing at it these days anyway.
Andy, stay with us because I'm going to ask you about Tepper and Hellenius. Just before I ask you about that, though, I'm going to mention Stephen Butler. You just mentioned the Canadian middleweight Stephen Butler. Go on YouTube, everybody, and type in Stephen Butler against Brandon Cook. Yes, Brandon Cook, who was supposed to fight Kell Brook, who got knocked out by Jaime Munguia. Watch that fight. It's the most bizarre ending ever. Cook absolutely ices Butler, and the crowd go completely bonkers and start fighting and smashing up tables. And someone throws an ice bucket into the ring. You know, one of those ice buckets that you keep champagne in. And just at the time, Andy, Brandon Cook goes over to Butler. Butler's so groggy from the knockout, he pushes Cook out the way, right into the way of this huge ice bucket that comes flying into the ring, smashes Cook in the side of the face and knocks him right down into the ropes.
I remember that, actually. It was a few years back, that, isn't it?
A couple of years ago, yeah. It's absolutely bonkers. It's like Spike O'Sullivan with the stool, but the ice bucket. Butler pushes him right into the range of the ice bucket.
Spike got lucky that night. Spike missed him by a millimetre. You just see the guy just lobbing it right across the ring. You can see him just come into shot at the bottom of the corner of the picture.
I was at
that was one of those moments. That was one of those moments, Steve, where you're like, had to be Ireland, like, didn't it? You know, we just get a major show back in the point or whatever, and somebody throws a stool in the ring. Like,
never been a show, I don't think, in the point since then, Rob. Surprisingly enough.
No, I know. It's a pity, actually. I was at some good shows in the point. In the bar, he would have been able to sell out the point having a piss at that stage. Like, saw him in a good European win. And I was there actually the night Kiko knocked him out. I was actually in the dressing room with Andy Lee, and I went back to my seat. By the time I got to my seat, the fight was over. Like, but yeah, no, some great nights in the point, and a pity really for Irish fight fans that there's no fights there at the moment.
Yeah, Rob's right. The point, which became the O2, the scene of Bernard Dunn's finest moment when he beat Cordoba, and then also his loss against someone whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, even though I was at the fight. Was it Poon Swat? I think it's Poon Swat. Right, Andy, forget about that. Let's talk.
Poon Swat, the Thai guy, yeah.
That's right, Poon Swat.
That's 9 years ago, believe it or not.
Oh my God! Don't even say that. Jesus Christ. Right,
yeah,
okay.
9 years because it was about a. Sorry, man.
No, go on, Rob. You're right. Carry on. What are you saying? Sorry.
No, because it was about a week after Dan Sutherland passed away, unfortunately. So that was 9 years ago. This September.
Okay, there you go. Erkan Tepper, Andy. I picked him to beat Robert Hellenius. Fool on me. Two big fat drunks basically wailing away.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ozzy was one that basically called it correctly. I think I picked the Hellenius last week anyway. Just purely off his last fight in that. I mean, I probably didn't give him enough credit. I mean, it's just, I think it was maybe Smido or maybe even asked me last night. Does he always go to the ropes? Does he always fight this lazily? In the end, I mean, it's more a case of maybe like Tepper gassing out. I mean, a proper gassing out after 2 rounds. And it just so happened that, Hellenius just a wee bit more confidence. He'd let the right hand go a wee bit more. And then I think it was a straight right hand, and then it was a kind of follow up, either kind of left hook or left uppercut, and that absolutely iced Tepper, put him under the ropes, just like a la David Price, 8th round knockout. And then the cheeky bastard and fucking German commentator says, so lucky punch. I'm like, fuck off, lucky punch, man. The guy just got fucking evaporated. So it was a fantastic knockout, by the way. And to be honest, I didn't even look into this last week, but I should have done actually. I think we're maybe looking at Hellenius here. I looked at him last night. I'm saying to myself, that guy's looking quite trim. So I went away and checked his weights for his last two or three fights and stuff, and he's actually been coming in low, like running about the kind of high 240s and that. With his previous fights against Hammer and Rossi and that, he was up around about the 260 mark and stuff. So I wonder if he's maybe he's had problems in the past with injuries and stuff like Hellenius. So I'm beginning to wonder now, maybe he's injury free and he's going to try and make a serious one serious attempt to get another shot at a title, so to speak, and then we'll see where he's going to go end up in that. But obviously he's not going to amount to like a legit challenger, in my opinion. I just think he's taking a wee bit more kind of serious. So maybe, but we'll wait and see. But that was for an IBF bobble there last night, and that. So at some point this could end up being a Joshua mandatory at some point.
God help us, but I suppose if we're in a world where Fezzequendo is still hanging around looking for a world title shot, you could see Hellenius being drafted in. Coming to you on a Triple G question, comparing his record, Dominic, against Pirog in a minute. Just before we do so, Lucas Brown got a win, 3rd round knockout over Julius Long. Julius Long, former Audley victim, actually. Kurt Warder liked that one. He's got more losses than wins now, Julius Long, but he's still treading the boards. Also, there was a draw. Hater Dave actually shouted out to me. I mentioned the fact that Alejandro Barrios who was Jerwin and Koyas's opponent, had 4 draws on the record last week. It was just a complete observation that I made. Well, he has 5 now because he drew with Jerwin and Koyas. Strange scores, Andy. 118, 111 one way to Barrios, 116, 112 to Ankoyas. I think it's a case of what you like on that one very much.
It was one of the type of fights and stuff. I mean, that Barrios, as it was said last, I think it was Friday night, 4 draws. But you need to remember, this is a Mexican guy who's actually fought a few times in Puerto Rico when some of the draws were rendered. I think he's got maybe 2, maybe 3 draws, and they were in Puerto Rico or whatever it is. So, you just wonder if a typical PR trying to fucking shaft the Mexican and consider how they hate each other and that. But as you say, the scorecard, especially that Marshall Walker 1-8, how the fuck can you have one fighter like Jerwin and Cajas had the fight won on one card, 116, 112, and then they had Barrios winning another card, 118, 111. The third just had a draw. How can it be so fucking wide? There's again, it's like perfecting last week. There's no way, and Cajas only won 2 rounds there on Friday night. It was a close competitive fight, and Cajas probably slightly edged it in my opinion. But that guy Barrios, he's nobody's mug. I mean, he's maybe no like an elite world level challenger or whatever that, but he's clearly got enough about him to push a draw or basically kind of make it competitive.
I think it's in the swing rounds, Andy. Like I mentioned about the Triple G scoring, I think you only have to give a couple of swing rounds, like, I'm not really sure, and you give 2 or 3 of them to one fighter, and all of a sudden you're looking at a lopsided scorecard.
Yeah, but I think that guy. I mean, I had a look at that guy's record, and that he's never really kind of officiated in big fights. Okay, it wasn't a big-ish fight, I suppose, but it's still a world title fight. And I just think okay, you want to give these guys maybe experience in that on like say the main event level and that, but you can't even have them fucking scorecards like this. It's every other week, and it's not every other week. This year alone's been pretty pathetic for some of these scorecards. But to have that fight, to only giving Cajas 2 rounds, to give that guy 10 rounds, I'm sorry. I mean, it's swing rounds or no. You look at that fight, there's no way, 0 way that it was 118, 111 type fight for any of those 2 fighters. Disgraceful card.
No, fair play, Andy, I agree. Smido, we're going to be coming to you next after I've asked Dominic about Triple G. We're going to be asking you about any value in the Beterbiev-Callum Johnson fight. We've also got this 5 Live clip to play as well. Dominic, let's come to you on this question from Smoking Bert Cooper. He said it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek question, but I'm wondering if you'd bring it up on the pod. Well, here we go, Dominic. I'm comparing, says Smoking Bert, Triple G's record to Dimitri Pirog's. I don't think there's much in it. I know Triple G is the better boxer and far greater career. Well, mainly because of the fact, this is me adding it in, by the way, that Pirog had to retire because of a back injury. Back to Smoking Bert. But Triple G's record isn't good at all when you match it up to how he's looked. I've sort of enjoyed trolling Triple G fans since the fight, and it causes a bit of an uproar. Wondering what you fellas on the show would think. What do you think, Dominic? Triple G's record against Pirog's, relatively speaking?
Well, it all comes around. The only common name I think they have is Jacobs.
Yes.
And you look at the Jacobs fight, Pirog was behind, I think, he was behind on all 3 of the cards by 2 rounds when he took Jacobs out. But I don't know. I think the thing about Golovkin's record, the way I look at it is, he didn't get the decision in the first Canelo fight, but if as boxing fans, if we're coming to judge this in years to come, just in the same way that I would look at the way the first Kovalev Ward fight and say, as great as Andre Ward is, I had him losing that fight, and even though the official record says that Andre Ward got that decision, to me, I don't look at him as an undefeated fighter in the same way that I don't really look at Golovkin as an undefeated fighter. The rematch a few weeks ago, that was a different story. That wasn't the same as the first Canelo fight. But in terms of, the way I look at these things is I don't look at them as the official record. That's what people who don't really follow the sport and look at it in how many years' time. But if you're actually interested in the sport and have the fortune of actually watching the fights when they happened, we don't have there's a lot of maybe fights from great fighters like Ray Robinson, certain fights that weren't seen by, aren't on the record anymore. You can't see them for yourself and judge them. But for Golovkin and like Kovalev fights that are officially down on their records as either losing them or drawing them. I see it slightly different. I go by what I see, how I judge the fights as they happen, not by what's strictly down on the record. And that goes for there's other examples of that. I mean, people would look at Floyd Mayweather and the first Castillo fight. There's a lot more examples of that sort of thing that you can, and that's why I think ultimately when you're weighing up something like who was better between Sugar Ray Leonard and Floyd Mayweather, I would tend to pick Leonard because he fought people when they were at their absolute peak and when the threat level was most severe, whereas Floyd waited until people like Cotto and he didn't fight Margarito when Margarito had just beaten Cotto. He could have fought Cotto before Cotto got beat by Margarito. He waited. He dragged. He even Canelo. He made Canelo come down. That's something that's overlooked. Whenever people, and I agree. He put on an absolute. Someone like Rob was saying after the rematch the other week. It makes you think how great that performance of Mayweather's was when he beat Canelo. And I do agree in a sense, but I also remember that Canelo, that fight was made, I think, at 150 pounds. I don't know whether it was 150 or 152, but Canelo was forced to come down. Now, who knows?
He was, but he volunteered to come down. So
yeah.
He dug his own grave there, like, didn't he? Because he said, I want Floyd, and I made him a catch weight, and Floyd was like, all right, pal, come on.
But see, in the Marquez fight was different because they agreed to catch weight of 104. Wasn't it 144 they agreed? And Floyd came in at the weigh-in at 147. They agreed a catch weight of like 144 pounds.
144 and $500,000 fine it was as well for Floyd.
And he knew all along. It was that's the sort of thing that like you hear all stories about in the history that Leonard was a real badass at the negotiating table as well. He would sort of like he didn't the conditions he set out for a potential Hagler rematch, but. And just in terms of he fought people, and even the fact that he fought Hagler when he thought Hagler was after the Mugabe fight, and he thought he was ripe for the taking. But I always think back to the Hearns fight. Could you have seen Floyd Mayweather? Of course, it's maybe different comparing eras, and Leonard was operating in an era where there was maybe not the same culture among elite fighters of having everything on your own terms, but. I couldn't have imagined Floyd, stepping in with someone like Tommy Hearns at his absolute pump.
Or Duran, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just in terms of I know I've gone a bit off on a tangent, Steve, but in terms of comparing Golovkin,
you're going to get hammered for this,
I know I am. I'm unrepentant. Not as it's not as bad as lionizing young black men, is it? Like, but.
In the context, by the way, just in case nobody knows, he's talking about the casual hunter who's been having a go at us this week. Carry on.
We're cutting off that guy's oxygen. Cutting off his oxygen.
The best way to deal with these people is just to laugh at them. People like that, I don't know. But anyway, the thing about Golovkin and the Pirog thing, it's just a pity the fight never happened between the two of them, and I think that's the more pressing consideration is not comparing the two records. It
was due to happen next, wasn't it? Before Pirog got injured.
It was due to happen next, and they sort of had similar. I mean, before Pirog fought Jacobs, all his fights had been in either Russia or Eastern Europe, I think, and that was his first sort of foray. And he was unusual. He wasn't your typical Eastern Bloc fighter. There was a considerable stylistic difference between Golovkin. Golovkin was a very sort of traditional Eastern Europe, Soviet bloc fighter. The way the primacy of the jab, whereas Pirog was switch hitting and doing things that you didn't expect. Those
moving the head a bit more. Yeah.
Moving the head a bit more. That thing where they're punching mid stance. They're leading with a jab, and then he won't sort of reach with he won't connect with a jab, and he turns southpaw off the back of it. That thing. It's not called switching. It's an old thing that sort of American Spencer Beard would say that he was these American black fighters were taught to do in the 50s and 60s. You know, the sort of switch stance mid punch or something. You know, it's not the same as switch hitting. It's different kind of thing. But it's just a pity the fight. You know, it never happened. But in terms of as well, you know, I think another consideration with, you know, looking back at Golovkin's career now that, you know, there's uncertainty about where he'll go from here. If you think back to even before he came to America, when he was fighting in Germany, he was messed about by those people that were those Universal people, the people that were promoting Sturm as well as him, because they were protecting Sturm.
That's right. That's true.
So he was messed about even before he got to America, and you know, the sort of uphill battle of sort of fighting, trying to get a decision on the cards against a golden goose like Canelo. In Germany, he was now he got out, but he probably didn't get out early enough. He probably, and that's not anyone's fault necessarily. That's just sometimes life's not fair. You know, these things he didn't probably realize until it was too late, that he was never going to get that Sturm fight. But it doesn't change in terms of like what's happened, like the actual results of these fights. I'm not gonna, when the time comes when Canelo retires, whenever that is, I'm not gonna give him the sort of dues. He's a very good fighter, but as in terms of how he's remembered, his legacy, how people remember him, yes, he'll get all the earnings, he'll make the big paydays in his career now, but in terms of how people remember him, you know, that's when at the end of the day, when it all comes down to it, and we remember these guys when they're long gone, and it's about what sort of legacy did you leave behind? How are we going to remember people like this? You know, you look like the likes of Duran and Leonard. You know, we remember them in sort of glowing terms, but I'm not going to remember that guy in glowing terms because he, it's, you know, what's happened has left a very sour taste in the mouth. Now, that's not to say what happened the other week was a robbery. It was a very close fight, which, you know, there's very reasonable argument to say that Canelo should have got it. A draw would have been perfectly reasonable as well. But just in terms of what happened in the first fight, you know, it's going to damage, in my eyes, it's going to damage how he's remembered.
No problem, Dominic. Dominic, I know you have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning, so we'll love and leave you. What's your Twitter handle?
Don't even off the top of my head, I don't know, Steve.
Go and find Dominic on Twitter and follow him. Dominic, we'll get you back on in the future, okay?
Take care, Steve.
All the best now. Bye-bye. Right, let's move on, shall we? Smido, yeah, tell me about this big Chicago card that Eddie's putting on. Tell me about the fights, first of all, and then go into the value. We've got the fight, 4 fights of note, a bit of, not so much quality, but a bit of quantity from Eddie. Joel Miller going against Thomas Adamek, not a great deal of interest in that. Jesse Vargas, Thomas Delorme. Daniel Roman against Gavin McDonough could be a decent fight. Neither are major punchers. But the one we're interested in, really, Smido, is Artur Beterbiev against former friend of the pod, Callum Johnson. Any betting value, first of all, Smid?
I've just been looking at the Callum Johnson fight there. Yeah, so that Beterbiev, why has he been so inactive, Steve? That's my first little question there.
Promotional issues. He's been splitting from his promoter. He was signed with Bob. Then he was with the PBC. It's got messy. Yeah,
because I started to take note, well, as we all did, started to take note with him after he knocked out Tavoris Cloud in 2 rounds. But he was on his way down. But I think the second time and the first time we really, pricked our ears to him was when he knocked out that Campillo in 4. I think that was quite a performance at the time. But that was when he was fighting regularly. Now, Beterbiev has only fought once since December 2016. So he only fought once in 2017 against some bloke I'd never heard of, and then he's fighting Callum Johnson here. The one thing I would say about Callum Johnson, obviously, and I think rightly so, he's the underdog going into this, but I very much expect Callum Johnson to go out there and give it a good go. I'm not just talking a brave performance, typical British over there. I'm thinking he'll give it a good go. He's missed a hell of a lot of time out the ring, obviously, I think nearly 18 months until he fought Buglioni. He went for it in that Buglioni fight, which at the time was pretty close to 50-50 in terms of the bookies. I've just watched that back actually while we've been on it. Obviously, it only lasted a round. He went for it in that fight and got caught a couple of times by Buglioni. Now, if he gets caught a couple of times like that from Beterbiev, then it's going to be a completely different story this Saturday. But yeah, I do expect Callum Johnson to give it a good go, and he could win. is rightly so the underdog. You can get about 5-1 Callum Johnson, and the opposite price of that for Better Behave is about 1-6, 1-7. On the card he's put together is we wouldn't call it spectacular, would we, Steve? But it's not the worst cards we're going to see. There's the other fights on the card aren't. They are priced up. So we've got Gavin McDonough. He's 5-2 outsider against Daniel Roman. Is that for a belt, Steve? Yeah, WBA super
Yeah,
banter.
Roman was last seen beating someone up and looking very impressive. He was one of the guys, Smid, that was approached by Eddie like a few days before the DAZN launch and sort of shoehorned in quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, he was absolutely. But yeah, as you said, he's looked okay. His last couple of fights, Roman, and he's by the looks of, you can tell I'm on Boxrec here, but he's been on the road a little bit, so he's the favourite to beat Gavin McDonough as expected. Jarrell Miller is being served the corpse that is Thomas Adamek. That is basically a no-bet fight, given the odds. And then Vargas and Delorme. Now, I'm not even going to claim that I can confidently analyse and pick a winner in that one, Steve, but it seems an okay contest to me.
I think that might be a rematch. I could be wrong, though.
You're probably not. You're really wrong, Steve. To be honest, very really. Vargas is the 1-3 favourite in that fight against Delorme. I think I might have seen Delorme a couple of times. He doesn't set the world alight, does he?
No, he's not very good. No, I don't think it is a rematch, Smido. There's me.
He's fucking dug up Thomas Adamek for this.
I know, it's shocking. I know, that is shocking. I tried not to lull on that, Andy, but yeah, that's shocking. The only 5-star fight on the card, according to Boxrec, is the World Boxing Council World Female Super Lightweight title between Jessica McCaskill and Erika Annabella Farias. So, in a bit of sprinkling of the old female boxing. I don't know how they're going to take to that in America on an Eddie Hearn show, to be honest. But I do give Johnson a chance. It clearly will not go the distance, that fight. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Better Behave gets on. He's not. I know they're the same age at 33. But yeah, it's just with these Russians. Do you trust them all the time? I don't know.
Tell you what, Smido, I don't want to go back to Jesse Vargas, but I've maybe done him a bit of a disservice. I always think of him as being a decent fighter, but not great. But I'm looking down his record here. I forgot he took Wally Amatoso's 23-0 unbeaten record. He took Khabib Alekverdiev's unbeaten record. Now, I do remember that fight, and I think it was very, very close. Some people had Alekverdiev winning. He took Anton Novikov, let's call him Novichok, unbeaten record, 29-0 he was at the time. So I tell you what, he's got some decent form. He also took Saddam Ali's 22-0 record. Vargas isn't that bad.
Well, if you go back to 2011, Steve, he's got a one round win against Vivian Harris.
I think Harris was on life support at that point now, wasn't it?
Yeah, similar stage of his career to Adamek. I mean, that Adamek being on the card, after being on any card, but particularly Eddie Hearn's Matchroom debut in America, I think is disgusting. I honestly do. But then again, I don't like Miller, so I don't really care.
Right, let's move on. Yeah, so as we're speaking, or sometime tonight, we've got Joe Joyce going in the ring in this California, where is it? Ontario, California show. Also, James DeGale won't be televised, but he's fighting Fidel Monterosa Munoz. Smido's jumped off the call. He's not happy about that. Ozzy, while we're on the subject of Beterbiev against Callum Johnson, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. Puncher's chance for former pod guest Callum?
It's a difficult fight, but he's only shot. I mean, he's boxed at the level he's been able to, which is at British level, and he's wiped out people at that. So he can clearly punch. And I know people who've been in terms of sparring with him, and they say look, this guy can crack. But it's all about the levels, and Beterbiev is a world champion. I mean, the power he's got is frightening. But then in his last fight against Enrico Okolie, I've got to say I wasn't particularly impressed with him. I thought struggled is maybe the wrong word, but I would say people like Adonis Stevenson, Badu Jack wouldn't be going 12 rounds with him for a start. That saying, I mean, he's had it's basically best part of 12 months out the ring again. So you don't know. I mean, Beterbiev isn't getting any younger. He's 33 now. And as Smid said, he's had one fight since 2016. So I mean, Callum Johnson could go over there. I think he's gonna. It's gonna be interesting to see what game plan he adopts. I don't think he can stand there and trade with him because I think with any puncher he's gonna go would be silly. But it'd be interesting. I'll be interested to see what it'd be like if Johnson can land clean, because I think we'll gauge early on whether he can hurt Beterbiev. But I think it may just be one step too far, because I think Johnson could do with a couple of, like European level type fights and then make that step up. But he's took the opportunity, which I've got a lot of time for. He's not one of these that thought, oh yeah, I'll pass on this opportunity. He's took the fight. He's gone abroad, and he's going to win. So I don't think. I definitely think he's live, but I think he may just come up short. But it's one of them. When he was on the pod, he was great. I tried to get him on for today, but he's actually flying. He's in the air now, flying to Chicago. So that was a shame. But I wish him all the best. And it's one prediction. I'm hope I'm wrong in. I take no shame in saying, if holding my hand up next week, if Callum Johnson pulled off, would be a tremendous upset.
Well said, Ozzy. The best to Callum from everybody here. Johnny Gonzalez is in action next weekend. He's had 76 fights now. He's in against Tomas Rojas, who has had a mere 59. They're fighting for the WBC Latino super featherweight title. It's about time the likes of Johnny Gonzalez hung up the gloves, man. He's going to end up getting damaged. I don't like to see guys like that fighting on, who are vulnerable in their prime. Boxing Britain tagged us in during the week on Facebook, and I thought I'd read out a few of these. It's quite funny. Boxing Britain said, a bit of fun, things you would rather do than watch a Lawrence Okolie fight. So things you would rather do than watch a Lawrence Okolie fight. I don't know if you guys have anything to add, but we had the guys on their Boxing Britain Facebook page came up with a few. Aaron Butterworth said, I'd rather watch my dad doing my mother while my nan watches. Richard Humberstone said, I'd rather watch O'Hara Davis and Romeo Romeo play Scrabble. Who else we got? Ro Cullen said, rather than watch a Lawrence Okolie fight, I'd rather fire pestle and mortared glass down my Jap's eye with a jet wash. That sounds like something you'd come off with, Andy. Oliver Moorfield said, I'd rather have a pint with Simon out of Corrie. Lewis Evans said, I'd rather watch every Johnny Nelson fight back to back. Matthew Amis said he'd rather get a hand job off Edward Scissorhands. Dave Canavan said he'd rather finger Gail Platt.
I'd rather get a chug off McShaw McManus with a fucking claw in the hand, by the way. Ryan Symes, Rob, said he'd rather have a threesome with Pat Butcher and Peggy Mitchell. Oh, by the way, at least be Peggy could shag back in the day, by at least it would be decent.
The Carry On films.
She used abortions by way of birth control, by the way.
Holy shit.
Fucking hell, here we go. We're going to get thrown up the air for sure this time. If we aren't already, we're going to do this one anyway. Daniel Fairbrass says, I'd rather let Adam Johnson give my little sister a lift to school again. And finally, Ollie Serisola says, I'd rather try to get wood while watching a Joe Brand comedy show live. So there you go. Ozzy, anything you'd rather do than watch Lawrence Okolie fight again?
I haven't got a clue. I'll just echo a lot of what everybody else said, but as long as I never have to watch that particular fight again, I'm happy.
Right, back to the action, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to put in the chat what you'd rather do than watch Lawrence Okolie fight, we may or may not read them out. We're probably going to get sued tonight. So we're really hedging our bets tonight. There's maybe 3 or 4 things that they're going to get us sued. Jason Chukwu's in the chat, everybody. Shout out to Jason Chukwu. Like I said, Jason, Okolie would be a world champion in under 18 months, okay? Is that you nominating yourself to be Bellew of the Week, Jason? Right, Mr. Rungvisai is back next week, boxing against Erran Diaz, defending his WBC super flyweight title in Thailand. I'd rather see Saw Rungvisai boxing opponents of a greater caliber than that. Maybe somebody like Lewis Neri, Jugs Treat Extraordinaire, is back, 26-0, boxing for the vacant WBC silver bantamweight title against Jason Kanoy. Obviously, he's made peace with the WBC now. And also, what else have we got coming up next week? I'm just flicking through. Let's go on to you, Rob, shall we? Give me a take on this Artur Beterbiev Callum Johnson fight, or any of the undercard fights if you want. Vargas Delorme, Miller Adamek, or Daniel Roman against Gavin McDonough.
Well, first of all, that Miller Adamek fight, I know we've said it already. What a joke! Like, Adamek is 7 years past his prime at a different weight. fighting a fella 300 and something pounds who's supposedly in line for a shot at the world title. So is that what gives you the credentials for a shot at the world title these days? You beat up Big Daddy Brown, or you beat up fucking Thomas Adamick? Thomas Adamick, Jesus Christ! Like, you can't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Like, the DAZN takeover, ask me arse for that one. Beterbiev I'd favour. I like Callum Johnson, but I think Beterbiev is just a better all-round fighter, like, and possesses a good bit of power himself and a kind of a systematic boxer. Like, so I would expect Beterbiev to win that one. But that card is not lighting my fire, to be honest with you. Jesse Vargas and Big Baby Miller, like, big bag of shite.
Big bag of shite, says Roberto. Go and follow him at Rob H. Kelly over on Twitter, Rob H. Kelly. Have I got that right, Rob?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to know what the H is for?
What?
Harvey, that's my middle name. Imagine.
Okay, there you go. Bringing you exclusives here on the pod. Andy, have I got your take on Beterbiev, Callum Johnson? Anything on that card that interests you?
Just a kind of like echo what Ozzy and that were saying about obviously the Beterbiev Johnson fight and stuff. I like to see him come and go for it actually, Johnson, because to be honest, I don't really rate Beterbiev. You know, he comes forward in straight lines. He took him he wasn't impressive against Cooling, was he? In his last fight, wasn't really impressive whatsoever. But
No.
I still back Beterbiev to win. You probably will grind him down at some point, but I just like to see Johnson maybe just kind of work the angles and just give him a bit of problem and just hang on for as long as he can and see how it goes. I mean, I don't even see him maybe kind of getting on the cards either. Actually, if it goes a distance, Danny Roman against Gavin McDonough. I'm going to go with Roman in this fight. Actually, he's mixed with the better fighters.
He's a good fighter, Roman, Andy. He's quite skilled, you know.
He can, you know, if you look at some of the cards and that he's fought on and stuff like, if he even goes a distance and that, he always seems to kind of win out kind of very, very wide on the cards, and he has got some good names, and that, especially in the last couple of fights and stuff. McDonough, we all know he can't crack. He couldn't pull the foreskin back on his cock. So, yeah, I think if you kind of I think, yeah, I'm going to go with Roman on points in that one there. And as for like Big Baby Miller and that, I mean, I watched him his last fight. I don't want to see him again. I can't even believe Hearn's fucking pushing this guy so heavy. 304 pounds in his last fight is absolutely disgraceful for a heavyweight. So, and as Rob says, well, you know, Adamek is like not just like up beyond his best weight, but he's like 10 years past his fucking prime. I mean, I tell you what, actually, see if it was like Adamek fought maybe Klitschko. I'm talking about Vitaly here, and that was like that's like 5 years or something like that ago. That version of Adamek would beat Jarrell Miller because he would just box and move all night long and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of gas tank Adamek's got, but I ain't going to be fucking. I'll probably watch the highlights of that one if it goes the distance. And Vargas against Delorme. Remind me, I've seen Delorme before, and I think he was getting touted as some sort of I think he's Puerto Rican or something. So I don't know if he's. I think he might have lost to Crawford and that at some point. But I seem to recall him bailing on a fight at one point. Actually, I don't know if it was him. If it isn't, I apologise. But as for Jesse Vargas, I want to see him get knocked out purely because of how he reacted after the Timothy Bradley fight. Acting like he'd fucking won by knockout and stuff like that, just to, you know, and then it's you know, to then like say to draw with Broner, for example, and that as well. I just don't really kind of rate the guy, especially you know how much I didn't rate Broner and stuff like that. So that fight, I'll go for a draw on that one.
Don't forget, we've still got the 5 Live clip to play. I will play that at the end of the night. Also, Belly of the Weeks are coming up. This is episode 293 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to it on, whether it's iTunes or YouTube. We have Rob Kelly on with us, Andy Patterson. Ozzy Smith is still there as well. We're going to be talking Catchell Davis shortly, and also another card from the weekend, which has completely slipped my mind. It's the World Boxing Super Series, no less. A bit of a left field one for you, Ozzy. Hope I don't catch you out on this one. Thomas Patrick Ward was supposed to fight Jazza Dickens in a British title fight. He pulled out. I think he was injured. Now Dennis Hobson looks like he's getting him an IBF, super bantamweight world title eliminator against Cesar Juarez. I think we saw him fighting the likes of Nonito Donaire, also fighting the likes of Isaac Dogbe. this is a decent step up for Ward, a winnable one for him if he gets it on home advantage. He's doing a bit of a job with Ward like he did with Jamie McDonough. Do you remember when he got the Seha fight in Doncaster?
Yeah, I didn't realise Tommy Ward was with Dennis Hobson. Now, he signed with Frank Warren just after they took over BT, and I think he only had a couple of fights, which was a shame, and then the contract expired. And Tommy Ward's next out on the Lewis Ritson card up in Newcastle. Now, I really like this lad. Skill-wise, he's absolutely superb. He was really good to watch. I watched his British title fight against Sean Davis, and that was really enjoyable. He displayed some excellent skills. He just likes a punch. I think he's had 22, 23 fights now, and he's only got the 3 stoppages. And whilst he can have a lot of skills, I think the lack of dig will affect you, particularly when you get up to the higher levels. But it is a decent step up. I mean, he won the British title against Jazza Dickens, defended it against Davis, and then decided to vacate it after he won this a fringe IBF belt. So it looks like is it a final eliminator or an eliminator?
I think it's just an eliminator, Ozzy.
Just an eliminator. So look, he's making a step in the right direction to try and go for world honours. He's going for a world title. Will he have to travel? I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't think he's with Dennis Hobson. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I like from what I've seen of Tommy Ward. It was good to watch. And skill wise, I think he's won a hell of a lot of amateur amateur titles and things like that. And in the pro game, he's done everything he's been asked for at the moment. So good luck to him.
Yep, indeed. We shall echo that sentiment, Ozzy. Let's go on to you, Andy, for this World Boxing Super Series there next Sunday in Japan. What's the time sort of difference, Andy? When will it be? Sunday morning we'll be able to watch that?
I think it will be Sunday morning, mate. You probably need to ask Asian Boxing, actually. But does anybody know, does this get beamed on Sky Sports?
I have no idea. You would imagine someone would get hold of it. I don't know whether ITV are continuing their connections. Now that Eddie's signed it up with DAZN, you would probably think Sky Sports, Andy.
Yeah, because they were talking about DAZN showing that, so you would think, because I know that card next week, the Viterbi cards on Sky at 2 in the morning, so you would hope they're going to show this one. Yep, I was surprised actually as to how quick this has come round actually as well, to be honest with you. But,
it's a nice card, I think,
Yeah, it's a really good card. Couple of good fights in there as well. Kirill Relic against Edward Tronovsky. Might be a wee bit ugly fight, that one actually. I would probably think maybe Relic maybe shade that one on the cards. Anyway, we all know what this guy's all about. People who's listened to this podcast for long enough knows I was big on the guy before he was even fucking known to some of the hardcore people and that. I'm not trying to be smart by saying that, but I came across him by accident, pure accident, and he's just progressed exponentially over the years and that. So I'm expecting a big performance here. Payano's not a big hitter, and to be honest, I think he was in. Was it who was the American Olympian he went 2 fights with again?
Roshi Warren.
Yeah, I did think he was very impressive in any of those fights and that. So I'm expecting Inoue to kind of do the business, step in. I'm going to go for
Payano's style might give him a few issues. I could look completely stupid next week.
Well, he's a southpaw, so he possibly could. But I just think anything that Inoue hits at bantamweight, he's destroying, absolutely destroying. I mean, okay, maybe look at McDonough fighting that. McDonough was dead at the weight and stuff, but I just think Inoue's in his but he's in the mid-20s and that. He must be in his absolute peak at the minute. So. Yeah, I'm going to stick my neck in the line. I'm going to go for a mid-round stoppage for Inoue. And Ken Shiro against Milan Melindo should be another wee tasty wee fight at light flyweight. Obviously, this is Melindo getting another shot at world title. I think he lost his title to, I think it was Heikki Butler maybe, or one of the other Japanese fighters.
Am I right in saying, Andy, Ken Shiro, was he on the last Inoue McDonald undercard?
He was the one, mate, who stopped that Gagan Lopez, yeah.
Yes,
second round, yeah, yep. He fought that guy twice, I think. So he seems to be in a wee bit of kind of running knockouts at the minute. And to be honest, Melindo is a decent fighter, tough. So I'm going to go points for Ken Shiro in that one.
Rob, Andy mentioned the fact that this had come around quite quickly. It also caught me by surprise a little bit, and I like that. I want to see Inoue in here. I want to see Relic against Troyanovsky. No messing about with the World Boxing Super Series. That's a plus for me.
No, it's good, and I think but I think we'll probably get to it. But with HBO pulling out of the sport, we're going to need more spectacles like this. Like, we're going to need more networks to pick up boxing, because they're going to leave a huge void no matter what we think of them. And look, the Super Series, the model of it, delivers the best fighters in the division. We saw that with the super middleweights. Bar Benavidez, you had everybody in there. Like, so it's been good. It's been good. I mean, it was good the first time around. I really enjoyed the first super middleweight, Super Six with Ward, Kessler, and Froch in there. Absolutely fantastic nights delivered. Like, so long may it continue. And I'd like to see it in some of the stronger divisions where they're more divided by. It's harder to make, but they're more divided by promoters and networks. But maybe with HBO out of the picture, you're going to see. Maybe I'd love to see it in the welterweights. I'd absolutely love to see it in the middleweights. So let's see more of it. Like, maybe it's the future.
Yeah, the World Boxing Super Series Aussie is great. I don't think we'll see it in the glamour divisions where there's money to be made elsewhere. It's more like the likes of the cruiserweights, where the guys aren't going to be making big money anywhere else. I suppose that's the thing about the format. Any updates on the TV? Do we think with Eddie's DAZN contacts Aussie that Sky will hopefully pick it up?
I don't think Sky have got the dates available, to be honest. When's the first? It looks like we're not going to see, obviously, Relic and Troyanovsky unless ITV do it again.
Sunday morning, isn't it? So they might, it's on Sunday morning our time.
Well, they put a lot on ITV4, didn't they? Now, I don't know why Box Nation wouldn't pick this up, because they've no commitments now with showing the BT show. So what a great thing for Box Nation it would be to pick up two World Boxing Super Series tournaments that guarantee them the best part of 12 dates or something like that, between them in terms of fights. So why wouldn't they pick it up? Whatever it is, I think it's going to be. I wouldn't be shocked to see ITV doing it again and just using it as a bit of a money grab, like they have with, because they've no commitment to boxing ITV, have they? Every fight they've put on, I think, bar 2 shows, has been near enough a pay-per-view. Which says it all about their commitments to the sport.
Weren't ITV, Aussie, sorry to interrupt you, hadn't got this deal with Poxon, and they were going to start putting, they had Robbie Davis Jr., and then they segued straight into Eubank against Quinlan, and then we're supposed to get so many Saturday night shows, weren't we?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So Richard Poxon obviously got the deal at the start, and then, like I said, I think he put on 2 shows, which was headlined by Robbie Davis Jr., which should have been against Willie Limond. And then after that, it just vanished. They've not done any in terms of content like that. They picked up the Super Series, and that's all they've put on, like I say. And then what pay-per-views have they had? They've had Usyk, Gassiev, Smith Groves, Smith against Bramer was going to be pay-per-view. Then Eubank Groves as well, so it's just repeated cost for the viewers there, and I'm not interested if they don't pick up this up as long as it gets picked up. But you don't want to be having to pay for every fight again, because it's just needless expense.
Yeah, for the record, not that anyone cares, I'm sure. I think Inoue will get rid of Payano probably around the 7th or 8th round. I think he'll last a little bit longer, and Relic will probably beat Troyanovsky, maybe split decision, majority decision, something like that. It's not going to be pretty though, is it? Style-wise, or looking at the two of them. Let's go over to the Leicester Arena. Mark Heffron mentioned he was on the show earlier. Sam Bowen was supposed to be defending his British title. Nothing came of it. So he's defending, he's going for this vacant WBO Intercontinental bauble thing against Horacio Alfredo Cabral, the original. Nicola Adams is closing in on a WBO World Female Flyweight title shot. She's got the interim crown against Isabel Mian. Leon Woodstock against Archie Sharp, 11-0 and 13-0 respectively. That'll be a decent fight. Also looking forward to Daniel Dubois against the new Kevin Johnson. He's nearly 40. He's got 10 losses on the record, but he's revitalised apparently. Also, shout out to Ryan Garner and Joe Mafosa. And Jack Cattrall obviously is fighting O'Hara Davis in the main event. Really looking forward to that one, Andy. Jack Cattrall, very good fighter, very talented. The only issue I have with him is that he takes rounds off and lets fights drift, even though he wins them. I'd be worried that he would maybe take too many rounds off, and I'm slightly, Andy, favouring O'Hara Davis in this one, as much as it pains me to say so.
Wash your mouth with soap and water. Fuck's sake. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I mean, I remember when I was doing like the live reporting for boxing scene and stuff, and I remember Catrol. I think I maybe mentioned it before when he fought Tom Stalker. I mean, how far back are we talking here with that Tom Stalker fight? That must be five years.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
I mean, since then and that, he's let's not beat about the bush, man. He's fought some trash, isn't he? So I'm like,
He's got all the talent. That's the thing.
I know this is what I'm saying. I mean, he's been away to America, he's training at Mayweather gym and stuff, and I was really impressed with how he dealt with Stalker and that. But it's just like it's like either his team want to hold him back, or it's more like it's just kind of like gradually build them up. Just gradually kind of let them learn and get himself into position. But I suppose there's no really any rush with him. I suppose, but is he mid-20s still? So there's still plenty of time with him. I suppose if you look at was his last fight against McDonough, he allowed it to get kind of too close in the cards. I think he even got point deducted as well for doing what Callum Swift did at the weekend. I think he'd hit him when the guy was doing stuff. So Davis, on the other hand, I'm not going to go and say there's been mass improvements with him, but I have noticed some. Whether that's going to be enough to kind of deal with a guy like Catrol and stuff like that, who is a southpaw, can dig with the left hand. I really don't know, but he's freakishly long and big for the weight, Davis. And you just never know if Catrol can land the left hand down and break his two noses. I can see Davis pulling on a quick job here. But no, it's in all seriousness, I would think Catrol, if he's just 100% focused, he's going to win this fight, and he could win it handily in the cards. I think I'll go for something like 160, 112 for Catrol in the cards in this fight.
Rob, over to you. Talk about Catrol O'Hara, obviously, but tell me about anything on the undercard. Daniel Dubois, good step up against Kevin Johnson. What are you looking for Daniel to do to obviously stop old safety pin himself?
Hey, dude, Jeff.
Yep, you're the only Rob with us.
Oh, sorry, man, I didn't hear that first part. I'm in the field. I'm in the field. What was it? We talking about Dubois?
We're talking Dubois, Johnson, and then go off into O'Hara against Catrol.
Well, I think in terms of Dubois, you learn nothing, absolutely nothing from putting him in with Kevin Johnson, because Kevin Johnson was durable when 7 years ago or something. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, he's going to steamroll him, like, isn't he? Old man, beat him up. So you learn nothing from that fight. But he's a name on the record, I suppose. In terms of Catrol versus O'Hara Davis, I think you made a good point about Catrol switching off, and as much as you can do, it's like coming around to him, because he definitely got thrown under the bus at Matchroom, which we've talked about in length. He can punch, like he definitely has a punch. So maybe if Catrol switches off, he could get caught. But in terms of moving him along, I kind of agree with Andy, and I know Ozzy always says this about going the traditional route. Like, I don't really see the need to rush fighters like into world titles at 20 fights. 20-0 seems to be the golden number nowadays. Like, it used to be 40-0, and once upon a time it was probably 60-0. But like, if we want these young fighters to be great, let them go, let them learn on the job. Like, because there's nothing worse than a career getting ruined when they get thrown in. And so let them learn on the job and fight, build them up. Like, so I think this is a good fight for both of these guys at this stage of their career. Probably favour Catrol, but I wouldn't be surprised if O'Hara drops him along the way with a big punch.
Over to you, Ozzy. I know that you're on the Catrol train and all that. I don't want Catrol to lose, don't get me wrong. I just feel that he has the talent, and I think he has the potential to go far, but it was just watching up close and personal against Tyrone McKenna. I really thought he could have finished that job, and he was starting to blow a little bit as the fight went on, and I just thought to myself, against a really good opponent, this could be a danger signals, and it's not the first time it's happened. So I think he could be his own worst enemy. If he's on the ball, he's on point. I think he's the more talented of the two. He's definitely the more skilled and the more schooled of the two, but I just worry that he's going to let it slip. And I think that Davis, sometimes we write him off because we don't like his personality, and he's maybe a harder puncher, maybe has a slight more amount of talent than we give him credit for. What do you think, Oz?
I think it's going to be Jack's toughest fight of his career today. As much as I think the O'Hara Davis, when he got beat off Josh Taylor, yes, he quit. But at the time, I think what Taylor's gone on to show was that there's no real shame in losing to Taylor, who's arguably a world level fighter already. So in terms of that, Davis essentially made a step up, got beat. He's come back. He beat Tom Farrell, beaten Ahmed Ibrahim, and then flattened that Paul Kamanaga. And now he's straight back in with Jack Catterall. It's definitely going to be Jack's toughest fight, but I think he finds ways of grinding out results, and he can box. He's got power in both hands, and he has a good jab. And I think this can dictate how he can beat O'Hara Davis. Is that when we've seen Jack work off his jab, is when it produces the better results. And it's a really stiff jab as well. It causes problems for it. But I agree, he does take rounds off, and he does get lazy. I think it's fair to say that he just thinks whether it's just a case of right, I'll recoup, have the round off, and go again. But then sometimes he can fall into a bit one-paced at times as well, because when he starts to go through the gears, I mean, he came out like an absolute train against Tyrone McKenna and battered him, absolutely battered him. I think was it the second round and then the fifth, he did a real job on him. I think the second round in particular was really hurt, but then he just didn't kick on from it. But I feel that Jack will have enough to beat him, but I do think it will be. I think he may encounter a couple of sticky situations, but I think he'll come through on points, maybe by 2, 3, or 4 points.
Ozzy, anything quick word off the undercard? It's a shame that Sam Bowen isn't defending his British title as we expected, but I suppose as the time went on, I was starting to think, it's not looking likely. They
couldn't get an opponent. Spoke to Carl Greaves, and there was simply nobody available. They tried to get Marco McCulloch to box for it, but it couldn't work out as Marco McCulloch signed to fight Declan Geraghty, which in the end has been called off as well.
Yeah.
So they've got this Argentinian in who I looked at his record, and he's not that bad actually. He's been on the road before. I think he went to Canada and beat an unbeaten 21-0 fighter. So he's got a taste for winning on the road. So it's going to be interesting because Bowen has only had 13 fights, and Carl Greaves said, like, look, this isn't like one of these easy knockover jobs. This opponent's no mug, and the win here obviously sets him up for a fight with Ronnie Clark in December, which is all good to go, providing Bowen comes through unscathed on next Saturday. Nicola Adams against Isabel Milan. I ain't got a clue who Isabel Milan is, and no disrespect, I don't really care. I think Leon Woodstock, Archie Sharp could be fight of the night. I think this could be excellent. We've seen Woodstock before have good fights with Craig Poxton and Paul Holt, which was for the Midlands area belt. I think this is a really good fight. Big step up for Sharp. This is his first real test, but it's a good one. And like I said, 11-0, 13-0. Two prospects getting in early. And they're at the age where if one of them gets beat, it doesn't matter because they can build again. So that's a really good fight. Dubois Johnson, I don't really know what we gain from this because, I mean, say if Dubois wipes Johnson out, it just goes, okay, so, oh yeah, well, Johnson's gone, etc. If he goes 8 or 9 rounds and then gets him out of there, people are saying, well, is Dubois all that because Joshua flattened Johnson in 2 or 3 rounds or whatever it was? So it's not really a fight I care about. It's one I expect Dubois to come through with relative ease, to be honest. And then there's talk of him having a bigger step up in December as well. So I like Dubois. I really like the way he goes about things. He's no bullshit. Purely the fact he doesn't have he's not that sort of personality. He literally gets in the ring, knocks his opponent out, usually in brutal fashion, says a bit of stuff, and then leaves and just goes back to the gym. Like I said, he's had some excellent sparring with Alexander Povetkin. He's been in with Big Martin Okolie, who we all know Billy Nelson speaks highly of. So I like Dubois. It's exciting. I think he'll flatten Johnson, and then it's on to the next one for him.
Yep, Declan Geraghty against McCullough, as Ozzy mentioned there. It was actually a good fight. It's been canned there. That was supposed to take place this Friday night at the MTK show. Can't get your opinions on that one, unfortunately, Rob. You're banned from talking about such events. I know you're a big Obanov fan, though, Rob. Isabel Milan, who's fighting Nicola Adams. I think that's a train you could be getting on board very soon.
Oh, I'm all about the Obanov train. Choo choo.
Choo says Rob out in the field. Andy, Ozzy, Rob are with us.
I'm back in the street now, man. I'm back in the street now. Back in the streets.
Back in civilization.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to Bellew of the Weeks, everybody. First one that I've been sent in came from Mohammed Mia, was for Dillian White last week for turning up looking like he was going to his work experience in year 10. He's with the jacket and the tie. He was looking brilliant, wasn't he, Rob?
Top class, man. Top class. He's getting that big paper, so he splashes out on the outfits, clearly.
Look very dapper, yeah.
Asda's own. What is it, Andy George or something you call her?
Who?
From Asda. You know, the George, isn't that the Asda stuff, you know?
Aye, the kids stuff and that.
Aye.
I think
that's what you got.
I think maybe go to H&M or BCM where you fucking got it. Go again, Primark. That's it, Primark.
Primark. Right, Anthony has nominated. Who were you nominating, Anthony? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Sky Sports or somebody. I haven't got the cut off, but they were saying basically 58% of people think that Bellew is going to beat Usyk. Simon Alevy has nominated Fuja. Anthony Joshua is like Muhammad Ali in his prime. Says Fuja. Obviously, Mr. Fuja hasn't seen much boxing. Terry has nominated Wayne Hearn. No relation to Eddie. It has an E on the end. Just quoting what Joshua said himself. Of course, risking 4 belts to no belts, Fury has nothing to lose. He wins and gets deserved praise, or lose, and he can say that he wasn't ready. Everyone hates Hearn because he's so successful, says Wayne Hearn. No relation. Bet Boxing was one of many people, along with Christopher Ansell, who's nominated Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz surrenders. Not the first time we've heard that. Surrenders to Oxnard police and is arrested. And all seriousness, though, on 3 felony sexual assault charges, including forcible rape. I always thought he was a bit of a simpleton, Ortiz, Andy, but it seems like he's a bit of a dangerous dude.
Who's this dude?
Victor Ortiz, no less.
Oh, aye, the fucking aye. Well, I did say to you guys, you know, he owns his haulage company and that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going up and do the Highway 66 and that, picking up fucking, you know what I mean.
Who said she only had to hit him on the jaw and he would have stopped?
That was true. Should have knocked him out.
Oh dear. Yeah.
I definitely think he could be, in all seriousness, it's very, very serious charges, like old Ayala Jr. there. But I think he could be suffering from brain damage, Ortiz. Like,
well, this is what I was saying about Gatti, for example. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did kill himself. And the amount of wars he was in, man, he must have had. You know, if you go back and like read some of the stuff, and that, I remember somebody saying when he was in a bar once in New Jersey, and he was trying to look at his phone, and he literally had his mobile phone literally like inches away from his face, trying to read a text message. He was constantly on pain pills. He couldn't see straight. I wouldn't be surprised, man, if he was in so much agony, he just decided to end it.
It's all got a bit bizarre for Victor, and hopefully there's some resolution for the victims, if nothing else. Tom Woodrow has nominated Chris Eubank Jr. and all his friends. Eubank was in the ring getting ready to go to Saudi Arabia. Bellew of the Week, says Tom, for Chris Eubank and his dance troupe, looking like a bunch of Brighton casuals on the hunt for some non-spashing. They did look like they were ready for a night out anyway. Tyrone Lee Morris, has been nominated by Andrew G. Just watching the Canelo Triple G card again, and Spike O'Sullivan looked calm and in control, but was caught stiff. Very unlucky. I'd like to see a possible rematch. He was winning the fight, Rob, up until the knockout.
He got iced. He was out of his depth, poor Spike there that night. Like, and I hear he's moving back down the light middle, so he's definitely a light middleweight. Like.
Yep, good luck to Spike there. Matt has nominated Billy Joe Saunders. Middleweight world title holder Billy Joe Saunders has failed a voluntary anti-doping association drug test for the banned substance oxylifrine, a stimulant multiple sources have suggested. That was from the desk of Dan Raphael. Michael Benson was talking about the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury press tour. ArsenalCentral.com jumped in and said, why is the Monday press conference media only? Is someone scared of running into Dillian White? Magical Mora, Ashley the Zulu, nominated Arsenal Central. Asgi has been nominated yet again. They can't beat Billy Joe Saunders in the ring, so try bullshit out of the ring. Natural Born Warrior, the WBO King, is our champion, standing by our champ, side by side, says Asgarter. Yeah, he's a regular offender, him. Michael Gearty has nominated Ben Davison. Billy Joe Saunders doesn't know the difference between a protein and a prostitute, let alone performance-enhancing drugs. says Davison, who is the trainer of Tyson Fury. Eddington King has nominated Matt Caldwell, 88. He's talking about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. This is not the biggest fight since Lewis versus Tyson. Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko was bigger, and so was Dillian White versus Joe Parker was probably bigger as well. This will be two clowns performing at a circus. I don't think Dillian White against Joseph Parker was bigger than Wilder versus Fury, to be honest with you, Matt. But there you go. What else have we got? Cam said he was embarrassed by the Deontay Wilder-Fury fight. Fury fighting Wilder is embarrassing, says Kugan Cassius. Embarrassing build-up, says Cam Tucker. Announcing the press tour before the venue. Only one promoter in this game, and it's Matchroom. Anthony Fowler said that he's looking forward to getting onto the Newcastle show. Nick Rutherford jumped in and said, buzzing, mate. Hope I can get my Anthony Fowler t-shirt signed. Be worth some money when he becomes a world champion.
What
okay.
Fucking brown-nosing bastard, eh?
I don't think he's going to become a world champion, to be honest with you. Just a hunch.
What you want is a Boxing Asylum t-shirt signed, available available there on the Twitter pages. That's what you need in your life, baby. You need one of them signed.
Signed by Rob Harvey Kelly across the back.
This is it. Whatever you want, if you pay that Patreon money, baby.
Yep, go and join us on Patreon, everybody. Buzzing over there. Sam Johnson was the one who nominated Nick Rutherford, by the way. What else have we got? Bellew of the Week, AJD has nominated JJ McDonough. Enzo Macronelli said, did Amir Khan just say he watches boxing all the time but has never heard of Usyk until the final? Omar has nominated him. Yeah, quite a few people nominated Amir Khan, actually. Andy, you nominated JJ McDonough for wanting to fight with one hand after having his chance to do so and then quitting. We went over that bizarre spectacle earlier on in the evening. Let's have a look. Paco has also nominated Amir Khan for saying he'd never heard of Usyk. Also for calling Tyson Fury Huey Fury. Amir Khan, no harm to him, but I know he's there because people know who he is and his name and that. But the same as Carl Froch, you're paying pay-per-view prices to listen to these guys. And, need I say more? Dean Lindsay has nominated JJ McDonough for offering Eubank a straightener after losing. Love it. Andy has nominated Naz for Bellew of the Week. Also, Luke has nominated Amir Khan for calling Luis Ortiz that Cuban kid. And then Gomez. That's pay-per-view. Again, Amir Khan nominated from Omar for calling Deontay Wilder Derwin Wilder.
I was going to put him up for that one as well.
It is piss poor, Andy, if you're paying 15 odd quid for these things. And, Amir is a clear full-on casual. Like, you expect a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I put up Naz and stuff like that. For example, this guy's from the Yemen, right? And who the fuck's bombing the shit out of Yemen just now? Saudi Arabia. So what does bold Naz do? I didn't give a shit about my ancestral homeland. I'll just turn up in Saudi Arabia, get paid, and just go, yeah, baby. I'm like, fucking hell. If the money's right, you'll do anything, you slag.
Yeah, exactly. Well said, Andy. Well said. Patreon.com/Boxing Asylum, everybody. Martin Hurry. It's called Andy Goldstein from Talk Sport, a clueless muppet. Andy Goldstein said, great win for Callum Smith, but Groves obviously not fully fit. James Bairstow nominated the Pound for Pound podcast. The boys have a message for you. Pound for Pound live, Aussie. What do you think about this one? Jake Wood, this soap actor, and Spencer... I nearly called him Spencer Fearon. Spencer Oliver. You can meet and greet 40 quid, Aussie. Put your wallet away.
I think they're doing about 14 shows, aren't they? So I bought VIP tickets for everyone. I can't wait.
Aussie's on board, everybody. Pound for Pound podcast.
Absolute shambles. Utter shambles. What the fuck? Why? What the hell are they going to talk about as well? Because the morons.
We could definitely do a live pay-per-view if they could do it. So Patreon subscribers, put your hand in your pocket if you want to set your... You never know what could happen.
Dreams can be made. Talking of dreams being made, Greg Cross has nominated Anthony Yard's next opponent. Warren has to be trolling with this. There's no way that he can actually be justifying padding Yard's record out, expecting people to buy into this bullshit about Yard being world level. I know they were trying to get quite a few different opponents, including Shawnee Monaghan. They've ended up with some Argentine who doesn't look great. Ben North has nominated Destructive Soundwave. New to this Twitter lark, says Soundwave. He'll get on just fine. He said, I wonder if my first ever response can be from Eddie Hearn, my favourite wanker. Brackets, Bants. Thank you for all you do. Mad respect. Danny Timmis put a photo up. Jordan Wills has nominated this, by the way. A big banner. Callum, Beefy, Swifty and Paul took on the world and battered them all. Respect the banner. Did you see the banner, Andy?
No.
No, there you go. Callum, Beefy, Swifty, and Paul took on the world and battered them all.
Oh, I
Do you
did see
remember,
that. I did see
remember when
that.
Smigger battered them all?
Yeah, I was ringside to see Groves absolutely rewire his napper by the doing it at Wembley. It was
That was a great
absolutely-
finish, wasn't
That
it?
was glorious, man. It's
It
just see
was.
Frank Warren almost shot his fucking bowels down his leg, man, at one point when the fucking fight ended. Tremendous viewing.
And shouldn't Liam Smith get a nomination? Then Groves lost all of his big fights. Well, he had to fight against his brother. There was a big where he didn't lose. So yeah, nomination.
Well said, Rob. We're losing you slightly, Rob. There, I think the old Wi-Fi is maybe dipping in and out, but we get the gist.
Can you hear me now, though?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, all good.
Cool. Who else was it? A friend of the pod, Kev Byrne, nominated the PR people. I suppose Frank Warren's PR people. Nicola Adams is the new Lomachenko. I mean, the female Lomachenko, I think she said, actually more to the point. But yeah, I know Katie Taylor's been. It's we've nominated that one before. It goes on. The circus goes on. Bradley Lobo has nominated Robert. Povetkin looks like Rocky Marciano, says Robert, big boxing fan. No doubt. The Texas Tornado, Gabe Lewis, is not on the call tonight, but he's nominated Matt Caldwell. We've already nominated Matt. And that, gentleman, is all the nominations that I've got. Any you want to add, Andrew?
Yes, I've got one for Eddie Hearn. As you know, after Joshua winning last week, and that Hearn's come out again about the Fury Wilder situation. Basically, says that right now Fury stands no chance against Wilder. Right, so remember that quote: Fury stands no chance against Wilder. Also, in a different breath, Hearn says we're ready to go. You, as in meaning Wilder, you could even pull out of the Fury fight and have an easy one, and we'll be ready to go on April with Joshua. So if Fury stands no fucking chance against Wilder, why do you want him to pull out the fight against Wilder? Surely you would want Wilder to stand in there and destroy him, and then it takes out another opponent out of Joshua's fear. Surely, Eddie, come on. And then what was it? Then he was speaking to Ben last week, for example, and he said to Ben that talks with Wilder's team had actually opened up again, and then on Sky Sports News, about 2 days later, says they wouldn't even pick up the phone, and then the following day after that, Daddy's flying out to America to see them sometime in early October. So he's all over the place with his lies. And people still fucking drink it in and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, I'm sure there's going to be people. Oh, there's Andy talking about Eddie Hearn again. You people need to understand what I'm telling you here. He is fucking. Forget about Frank Warren. We're talking about Eddie Hearn. I hate these counter arguments. Oh, but Frank Warren did this, and Frank Warren doesn't pay his fighters and stuff like that. We're not talking about fucking Frank. We're talking about Eddie Hearn. This fight didn't happen because of him. And you're fucking letting all the shit that he's spouting go unchecked. And I'm fucking telling you right now, he is wanting Wilder to pull out the Fury fight because he fucking knows Fury is a live dog in this fucking fight, and he's got a proper chance of winning it. And this is the reason
exactly.
why.
He's trying to take shine off Fury, but at the end of the day, Fury's had 3 years out of the ring, or 2 years out of the ring, come back and fought two mediocre opponents, and he's going straight into this Wilder fight, and it's signed, sealed, and delivered. So whatever you say about Fury, he took the fucking fight, and AJ didn't. You know what I mean? So he's trying to discredit Fury as well.
Andy, I don't want to jump on the anti-Hearn train. I hate him for the sake of it, but you have to say what you see. And why would they start negotiating before the fight has even taken place? It's the case again of trying to get out of the fight, which if you're just honest, whatever, fair enough, get out of the fight by making it look like you're not getting out of the fight. Mm-hmm. Why are you going to start negotiating? Oh, you have to come to the table before the Fury fight or we're going to move on. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, it doesn't matter who's saying it,
That's what Ozzy said. Ozzy said the same thing last week. You did. Ozzy said that last week. It makes absolutely no sense to actually go into talks. Okay, Eddie, say they weren't answering the phone. Well, why the fuck should they? They've got a contract, apparently. They've got a fight against Fury coming up. I mean, Hearn's telling people that he doesn't think the fight will happen. Then, 2 days later, he's telling people that he says Fury's got no chance. And then he says that Wilder should pull out and take an easy fight before the tune-up. So what is it? Then he goes on about that Fury's not getting paid enough. Fury's in it for the money. And he's talking about Fury's not getting paid enough money for a Wilder fight. So what is it? He's all over the fucking place with his fucking bullshit.
I said a fight for every belt, legitimate world title in boxing is not going to happen when one of the champions is defending his world title against a legit contender. This is not some shitty 6-rounder when they've got an opponent being brought in to lose. This is a legit world title fight where Wilder could quite clearly lose. So why the hell are they going to go? This is what I mean. They are not going to go into negotiations pre-Fury fight and have everything agreed and signed just to benefit Hearn and Joshua. It is not going to happen. Because tell me who else works like that. Nobody.
And another thing as well.
It's to belittle the fight, isn't it? It's to belittle the fight, the status of the fight.
Exactly. Another thing I was going to say as well is before he signed with Frank Warren, who was it was trying to sign Tyson Fury at one point? Remind me his name again.
Mr. Edward Hearn.
That's it. Matchroom. Of course it was. They wanted them because what they're going to do, they're going to try and divert them away from Joshua. I tell you one thing, by the way, I've no problems with Joshua and that, but it's purely because of Hearn and his fucking bullshit, by the way. Okay, I said it last week. He is going to come a cropper at one point, by the way, and I'm going to be there to piss on his fucking grave. I can't wait.
He's a spin doctor.
And a PR spin. Yep.
Yeah.
Like you just said, it's PR spin in full effect last week. A minute after the fight is over, he's in the ring calling Wilder a Fury. And we're ready in April. You're already lining up Dillian White in April. Like, you think fucking Wilder, if he knocks out, is going to come to Wembley in April just like that?
Well,
he already knows that he's not going to do that.
So that's what I was going to say as well.
So they have his opponent lined up.
Hearn's claiming the money's not there. So look, just remind me something here, by the way. Who is this? Who's airing this fight? Showtime. How much money does Showtime have? I would say billions in the bank, right? And there's Eddie Hearn, right? Try to fucking get all his sycophants believing he's got $1 billion to spend himself. Well, you got CBS and Showtime, who's one of the biggest TV entities in the fucking world, and they can't afford the fight.
Al Heyman behind it, like.
Exactly. So fuck off with your pish. I've just called you like fucking on 7 different subjects. You haven't got answers for them.
This is another thing as well. So they're claiming that, but basically, we all know Dillian White. He's openly said it. If Wilder or Fury cannot be made for April, Dillian White's taking the fight. However, Dillian fight is in an apparent 50-50, 60-40 according to Sky with Derek Chisora, which means he can quite clearly lose in December. So how are they lining up Dillian White's next fight, yet have him in an apparent 50-50 with Derek Chisora in December, yet and are going to sell it on a pay-per-view? However, are basically saying, well, he's going to wipe the floor with Chisora because we're going to pencil him in April. Well, that, in my opinion, says that nobody fancies Derek Chisora to win the fight because they're planning well ahead as well. So why should people pay 15 or 20 quid for a fight that the base? A lot of people, because they're penciling in fights with Joshua, say, oh yeah, it's going to be competitive. Well, no, it's not. Otherwise, you're not going to be lining up fucking world title fights at Wembley, are you?
Exactly. And remember who said the Povetkin fight was done when they were trying to negotiate Wilder in public. In public, they were negotiating the Wilder fight. And who said Povetkin fight was signed, sealed, delivered? Frank Warren. What did Frank Warren say this week? Dillian White is signed, sealed, delivered for April. They know Dillian White's been told, you just beat Derek Chisora and you're getting this fight because we're not taking that other fight next. But we're going to put it out there like we are, but we're not really, because we want another 2 pay-per-views at Wembley before we make a step up and risk it. And that's it. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be 2 more fights at Wembley. It won't be against Wilder. It won't be against Fury.
What you said, Ozzy, is right, because it's like trying to stack cards without having them collapse, because you're trying to make the Dillian White fight while not looking like you're trying to duck out of the Wilder fight. You're also trying to sell Dillian White as Chisora as on the pay-per-view platform, while also hoping White gets through to fulfill the date. It's like finally stacking all these cards on top of each other.
Exactly, and it just doesn't work. And to say, well, you need to agree everything before the Fury fight is utter rubbish. And it's never going to happen. 1, they've got a contract to adhere by. 2, they'd be utterly foolish because a win over Fury, no matter what level he is, will only propel Deontay Wilder's reputation. And it's an excellent name to have on his record. And therefore his value will go up again. They've announced the press schedule, a bit of a press schedule tomorrow, so they're going to be on Good Morning Britain as a face-to-face. Well, in terms of PR, that's excellent because it's going out on terrestrial television to millions of people in the morning. So in terms of that, more people are going to be hearing about Deontay Wilder every day this press week and up until he fights Tyson Fury as well. So in my opinion, it's just a stupid stumbling block which will only be removed. If it was the other way around, they would not do that. If the ball was in the other court and Wilder said, right, well, I want you to agree to this fight now before you box Dillian White in December, that would not be the case. No chance. No chance.
We've got Barry Hearn and Frank Warren. It's quite a long clip. I'm going to play it right at the very end so people can bugger off if they don't want to hear it. It lasts for about 5 or 6 minutes. It's directly cut off the Radio 5 Live interview. Before we get on to that, let's finish up Value of the Weeks. Do you have any nominations, Ozzy? Or if not, we'll go on to who you're picking.
I don't have any nominations, but after that rant, and an enjoyable rant, I'm nominating Edward Hearn of Brentwood for the Wendy Award.
I want in on that one as well. Actually, I mean, he has had a horrendous last couple of months. By the way, he's just. I'm not going to say the mask slipping and stuff like that, but his bullshit's just been thrown out there for everyone to see. And you can't go on IFL or YouTube stations and stuff like that and give different takes on it because people pick up on it and then they call you out on your bullshit. That's all it is. I mean, as people say, it's all about protecting the golden goose, and I agree. But who was it said that in the chat there? Dave Tricks. Exactly what he did with Chris Eubank. And at the end of the day, Chris Eubank left him anyway. At the end of the day, didn't he? But it was protect the golden goose, get the paydays rolling in and stuff like that. It's all good times and Larry, champagne and oysters. We'll eat fucking turkey at Christmas time and stuff like that. I mean, fuck. I mean, we've got another pay-per-view. Yeah, 3 pay-per-views we've had to pay for in the last couple of weeks and stuff like that. Decent fights about it, but it's just, and then that's another thing. Eddie Hearn's complaining about the market getting saturated. Who fucking started it? Fucking him, prick.
I'm going for Amir Khan in this week's Belly of the Week. Rob, multiple offences from King Khan. Any nominations, or if not, cut to the chase. Rob, who are you going for?
Just one nomination for Abel Sanchez, or Unable Sanchez, as Kurt Ward calls him. He said earlier in the week after HBO folded on boxing that he'd given up watching HBO because Lampley and Kellerman were too biased. Well, he obviously wasn't watching his own fighters' fights then, because they were definitely biased towards Golovkin a lot of the time. So, know where he's going with that one. But apart from that, I think JJ McDonough's had the top this week. But we go for Eddie.
Rob, you've took us down a perfect pathway there. Hopefully your sound will hold up. You mentioned HBO. Obviously, times change, things move on. Will we still be hearing the tones of Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman, Andre Ward across other platforms because HBO is no more in the boxing sphere?
Well, ESPN swoop for them rather than his own swoop for them. But something, whatever you say, leave a big void. And part of my love for boxing comes from watching fights with me dad. And before the internet, some of the fights you had to hope someone had a copy that was sent from America, and you get these HBO broadcasts like Taylor and Chavez, and just the personally, I prefer at home, even if you're ringside, it's tough to see. And I like to analyze them at home, and I think it's kind of to the golden moments. And looking back over the years, I mean, there's too many fights to mention, but Chavez, Taylor, Morales fights. And then, of course, Mickey Ward and Gaddy, where Manny Stewart says it's just magic moments. To me, it's going to be sad. I'm almost Lampley-esque here with me tearful goodbye to HBO, but to me, they're leaving a huge void. Even going back to the 80s, to the Tyson fights, to Leonard versus Lalonde. If you got a copy of the HBO, you were getting so much insight on the fights beforehand. I remember him doing a good analysis before Tyson fought Tyrell Biggs about how he from dipping from side to side and stuff. So it was just brilliant. And to me, it's going to be a huge loss.
Yeah, same. I mean, life moves on, boxing moves on, Andy. I don't cry. Maybe I'm a bit heartless, but it's gone. That's just the way it is. HBO moving over to the likes of Game of Thrones and all that. But over 1,000 shows, I think it was 1,010 shows or something across the years. Some of the most memorable moments have gone hand in hand with HBO. Riddick Bowe Galotto was one of my favourites. Obviously, them all fighting in the ring. Also, another Riddick Bowe seems to be a common denominator on this one. The Fan Man coming in, that was also on HBO as well. Yeah, home box office, fair play to them. They've done a great job over the years, but they're bearing out. You've got Morales Barrera as well, was a classic. Gatti Ward, as Rob mentioned. And I'm also going to miss Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. I never, ever watched that show ever once in my life, but they always seem to plug it during the boxing. Don't forget to tune into Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. And also Harold Lederman as well with his little yellow box on the screen. Okay, the WBO fight night will be the so-and-so rules. And I'm getting a bit nostalgic, Andy, sorry.
I think we need to kind of kick Peter Nelson the balls a little bit here. I mean, if you look at some of the, I think he'd been in the job, what, 2, 3, 4 years or something like that. I just think if you look at some of the shows that they put on in that time frame, it was absolutely appalling. The matchmaking was shit. You know, they were propping up, you know, like they were propped up with like Kovalev and Golovkin, 2 fighters who, you know, on the bad side of 30. They were really looking at, they were pushing Gonzalez for a bit, and then it's like, you know, it was like he was there one minute and gone the next and stuff like that, and they've kind of had to push the super flyweight situation and stuff. They've not really got a
Bob
hand.
Arum saw the iceberg, didn't he,
Yeah,
Andy?
they've not got a superstar to pick from. There was, like, again, as I say, a lot of soft touches for like Kovalev against Mohammadi and all these guys. Remember him trying to get the Stevenson fight, that fell apart and all that sort of stuff. And Canelo went out to Showtime for a bit. And basically, the fucking whole Oscar operation went away over to Showtime and stuff as well. So, as you say, I think Bob Arum kind of, you know, he knew straight away that it was kind of, you know, Bob's no fucking daft, even though he might be 90 and stuff like that. But, you know, 45 years, you know, that's, you know, it's a lot of fights. I think it's over 1,000 fights or something like that they've showed or something like that. But it's just a shame. It's gone. And at the end of the days, I think when you replace the likes of Larry Merchant with fucking Max Kellerman and that, you know, the fucking writings on the wall for there on in, like.
Yeah, Ozzy, it looked like it was coming to an end, didn't it? They obviously hadn't got the stars. They weren't getting the top talent aside from the likes of Canelo, Golovkin. Obviously, people were jumping ship, and they were trying to get on the super flyweight wagon. But I think the last super flyweight card just showed that the nail was in the coffin. HBO wasn't what it once was. Times had moved on. Things had passed it by. We were referencing this, Ozzy, the other week about tape delays. You know, they were still talking about the Canelo Triple G rematch was going to be on a tape delay, and just seems like boxing's just gone a different route, and they've just pulled their foot out, and they're not interested in live sports, in live boxing anymore, and they're not, you know, it's just the way it is, I suppose.
That's exactly what they've done. I can't remember. I think it was one of the American lads that said they're more into like the, you know, the box set type things now, which is what the route they're going down instead of showing the live sports. And I mean, they've been a big part of boxing history, haven't they, HBO? And I mean, they're leaving. I mean, is that it now? I mean, do they have any more fights to show? Or
yes,
they're
showing. They're showing. Sorry to interrupt you. I think it's Jacobs Derevchenko, possibly, which opens the question, Ozzy. HBO had an exclusive deal with Jacobs. I'm assuming he's just going to be released from that now.
Yeah, he'll sign for DAZN, won't he? He's promoted by Matchroom USA, so he'll sign with. He had one fight left with HBO. I remember Hearn saying in an interview. So you would suspect he goes straight to DAZN, but it opens the question. I think HBO had, exclusive deals with probably about, quite a few fighters, actually, maybe 10 or 11 fighters. I did see a list earlier in the week. Obviously, Canelo and Golovkin being 2. So it's going to be interesting to see where those guys go, because they obviously command a hell of a lot of money. But in terms of revenue themselves, they provide it back. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely interesting to see where they're going to go. I suspect DAZN will be looking to bring in, if they can bring in, you know, like for example, a Canelo. That would work wonders for their subscription channel in terms of building it, because the only way you'll be able to watch him is through subscribing through that.
Yep, RIP HBO. We'll see you again in a future incarnation. Possibly they'll come back to boxing. Who knows? Thank you to everybody who's been on the panel tonight. To Rob, to Ozzy, Andy, of course, as usual. Also, Dominic was with us. Adam Smith. Shout out to the Yanks, who never bothered their arse coming on as well. Also to Mark Hefford and all of our listeners. I've been Steve Wellings. Let's play you out with this clip. This is Barry Hearn and Frank Warren going at it on 5 Live. It's worth a listen. It's quite funny. We'll catch you all again next week. Bye.
So, but Joshua is the world's #1 heavyweight, and you expect him to win every fight if you're #1, and if you're not, you don't become #1, do you?
No, absolutely. So now, what next? Deontay Wilder, the WBC champion, it's been confirmed in the last 24 hours that he's going to fight Tyson Fury in America. And Frank Warren, who arranged that's on the line. So let me get, first of all, before we bring Frank in, a reaction to that December the 1st fight, Barry.
Well, I mean, great. You know, it's a good fight. I think it's something that will get people's attention. And like everything else, I mean, as I think Anthony said last night so clearly, is that we focus on ourselves, and obviously Anthony wants to fight the best out there. So I think it's a great fight for boxing. I think it's a little early blessing for Tyson, but I understand his reasoning, and it's shrewd business. If Tyson Fury gets beat by Deontay Wilder, he could probably still come back and fight Anthony Joshua, whereas if it was the other way round, he couldn't. So that's 2 for the price of 1. Very good. I look forward to it. I think Deontay Wilder's a big favourite.
Well, stay on the line if you would, because Frank Warren joins us. Frank, so all the paperwork signed, it's definitely happening December the 1st, yeah?
It is, and there'll be Deontay and his team will be in London Monday week, and we'll be starting the first leg of the press tour, which will take in New York, LA, and there's one other city which hasn't been decided yet.
Yeah. If Wilder lost as the champion, is there a rematch clause in the contract for him to fight Fury again before any other contest?
I can't give you the details of the contract.
Why not?
Because I just told you. But the situation is very clear. The winner of that fight, and Anthony Joshua, is a big fight, and nothing will stand in the way of that happening. I believe that Tyson Fury will be the winner. As Barry just said, that's a big fight, so why on earth would anybody want to stand in its way?
No, all I was merely thinking that if Fury won and Wilder as the champion lost, Wilder, if I was his manager, I'd say have a rematch contract in there, and so that might scupper an immediate fight with Joshua, if you see the point I'm making.
No, I absolutely do see the point, but I think everybody's sensible enough to make sure that big fights happen, and there are ways to make things happen. So I don't believe that anything will stop that fight from happening. The only people who can stop it from happening is Anthony Joshua's people.
So, Barry Hearn, you say?
Well, with all respect, total rubbish. Number one, there's got to be a rematch clause, obviously, because there's no way Deontay Wilder is going to risk his WBC title without a rematch clause, unless his management has changed, because his management are actually quite sensible. So, look, there's no rush. I mean, I think Frank would agree that you don't rush anything in boxing up. We've got a fighter here who's 22 fights, the world number 1 heavyweight. There's no rush whether he fights Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury later on. I mean, we're not going away from this world. In an ideal world, we have a plan. If the ideal world doesn't work out, we have another plan, and we run a proper business at proper time. But I know Anthony has made his shopping list of who he would prefer to fight next, and that is Deontay Wilder. But it doesn't mean to say the deal can be done, because you don't just go into any meeting and say, I want to fight you, I'll agree any terms. Anthony's planning a 6, 7, 8 year career. It doesn't end on April the 13th. It's just another day of a journey of Anthony Joshua's career.
Frank?
Well, that tells you all you need to know. They don't want to fight. If they wanted to fight Wilder, they would have fought him yesterday. That's what would have happened. They didn't want to fight him. It's simple as that. They turned down a $50 million offer, and that's why we're making the fight. The facts of the matter are the public want the fight, Sam. They want the winners to fight, want to see who's the best. Yeah, and I respect what Barry says, because he's an accountant. That's his mentality. What does he want to kill the golden goose for? The public want to see the best fighting the best. And the 3 best heavyweights out there are Anthony Joshua, Wilder, and Tyson Fury. So the bottom line is 2 of them are fighting. The lineal champions fighting the WBC champion, both undefeated. The winner of that should fight Anthony Joshua next April. Why shouldn't that happen?
Barry?
Great. It's great if it happens. We want to fight Wilder. We've sent Wilder a signed contract to fight on April the 13th already.
We'll be fighting Tyson Fury.
Yeah, but it's fine. No, we will agree a term with Deontay Wilder to fight on April the 13th if he beats Tyson Fury. If he doesn't beat Tyson Fury, I believe we've got to look around, because we've got a business to run. We want to deliver the fights people want. That's why we do the biggest shows in the world.
The public don't want to see Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury.
But Tyson Fury will not be in a position, in my view, Frank.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's just cut through.
If he is, I'd love to see it.
Well, let me tell you, that's my problem to sort out. But let's assume that he is in that position. Is the fight going to happen? Is the fight going to happen?
I can't do that, because I can't assume that you're telling me the truth. I don't believe he is going to be in a position to do that.
That's not what I asked. Whether you're saying whether you believe it or not, what I'm saying to you, if he's in that position.
There's no question. If Tyson, in a world
then
where...
that's up to me to deliver that, isn't it? So I'm pleased to hear that you have stated publicly, if he's in the position, we'll make the fight. That's all we want.
Of course, and it's like everything else, Frank, as you know, it's subject to terms.
I'm sure a lineal champion who's now the WBC.
We are not on Radio 5, and this is very poor form to be negotiating in the public arena. I don't do that. Radio 5 should know better. But we will agree.
You're stopping it. It's getting the truth out in front of the public, so the public understand why fights don't happen.
Gentlemen, let me as the referee just step in here, and what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm just going to be the referee here.
On national radio to try and agree terms for a commercial fight. You should know better, and Radio 5 should be ashamed of itself.
Hang on one second, Barry. Hang on.
He has nothing else to pull.
Hang on one second, Barry. We did ask you whether you would talk to Frank Warren, so don't say Radio 5 should be. So, Barry, would you just bear with us for 1 second? I'm going to let you have your say. Can you just tell us, in a nutshell, what you see the situation as, Barry, please?
Wilder or Tyson Fury, subject to terms on April the 13th, without a problem in the world.
Okay, and Frank, let's get a little response from you.
I'm absolutely delighted that Barry's just said. So there you go, people who are listening. The winner will fight Anthony Joshua. You heard it from the chairman.
Subject to terms, because you will ask for a ridiculous amount of money and it won't be made. But let's try to talk about it anyway.
It'll be very simple. It's a 50-50 deal.
Very simple. 50-50 split against the number one heavyweight in the world. You can forget that completely.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on. I'm only sorry we couldn't have done a pay-per-listen deal for Five like that. Barry, thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Good, it won't be happening again. Thank you.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much as well.
Well, I hope I'm on the programme again.
Yeah, we'll invite you back. Kevin, a reaction to that, and as I say, I will